Notice is hereby given pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Vernon's annotated civil statute, Article 625217, that the city of Smithville will conduct a council meeting on January 8th, 2024 at 5 p.m. at the City Hall located 317 Main Street, Smithville, Texas. I call this meeting to order. Jimmy, Councilman Jenkins, will you please lead us in prayer?
Pray with me, please. Father, we thank you for this day and this new year that you have brought to us. Help us to have wisdom and grace as we move forward. May we really succeed and be bountiful in everything that you would have us do. Please bless all of us that are here. Thank you for this turnout and for the people that are here. Everyone watching, know that we are all blessed in this city because we live in such a great city that is blessed by our Lord. Thank you, Lord, for everything that you have done for us. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. I had to look, man.
I think y'all got.
Tonight, Councilmember Janice Bruno is under the weather, so we send prayers for her to get back feeling good and back here to help us make good decisions. Thank you. Hey, you want to come up here? We have a proclamation for It's Texas Time, and Jose will recite it for us.
It's Time Texas Community Challenge 2024, whereas the city of Smithville cares about the health and well-being of its residents, and whereas the city of Smithville supports making the healthy choices, the easy choices in attempt to reverse the trend in adult and childhood obesity, reduce your risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, and diabetes, improve air quality, reduce traffic injuries, make streets safer for people who walk, bike, and drive, make the community stronger and more enjoyable for everyone, increase safety, and reduce crime. Whereas the city of Smithville ranked third in 2017, It's Time Texas Community Challenge, the first city residents had participated in this program, and whereas the city of Smithville was the first in its category in 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 2023, whereas the business and school communities and many individuals participated and supported the community challenge because it was fun and showed how easy it is to make healthy choices. And whereas the 2024 community challenge begins on January 8th and runs through March 3rd. Now, therefore, the city of Smithville proclaims its support for the 2024 It Is Time Texas Community Challenge, pledging to help community members make the most of the challenge in the hopes that sponsoring healthy habits through the program will promote and support healthy activities and choices for into the future. The city of Smithville therefore proclaims January 8th, 2024 as the kickoff to the Smithville It's Time Texas Community Challenge, dated this 8th day of January 2024 in Smithville, Texas.
And next we have proclamation for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Heather Washington will recite this.
Okay. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. challenged our nation to recognize that our individual liberties relies upon our common equality, and whereas at a time when our nation was sharply divided, Dr. King called on a generation of Americans to be voices of reason, sanity, and understanding amid the voices of violence, hatred, and emotion. And whereas Dr. King devoted his life to the struggle for justice and equality, sowing seeds of hope for a day when all people might claim the riches of freedom and the security of justice. And whereas on the Martin Luther King Jr. federal holiday, we commemorate the 38th anniversary of the holiday, recognizing one of America's greatest visionary leaders, and we celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. King. And whereas Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech turns 61 in 2024 and reminds us to recognize that in these challenging times, too many Americans face limited opportunities, but our capacity to support each other remains limitless. And whereas we must face the challenges with the same strength, persistence, and determination exhibited by Dr. King, and whereas the walk's theme is a day on, not a day off, and whereas the American people are called to engage in public service and promote nonviolent social change so that Dr. King's unfinished movement toward equality can be achieved by our united, enduring efforts. And whereas in the city of Smithville, Texas, all citizens are urged to join with Smithville High School, Bastrop High School, Elgin High School, McDade High School, Cedar Creek High School, and Colorado River Collegiate Academy in supporting the scholarship program during the annual walk. And whereas all citizens are also urged to join in the 35th annual walk on January 15th, 2024 at 10 a.m., beginning at the MLK Park, 1101 MLK Drive, Smithville, Texas, and will end at the Smithville Rec Center, 106 Royston Street, Smithville, Texas, for universal peace, justice, human rights, and social and economic progress for all people.
I, Karen Forster, Mayor of City of Smithville, Texas, do hereby proclaim Monday, January 15th, 2024 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Thank you, and I hope you will all join us on Monday, the 15th. Next item is proclamation for certificate of appreciation for Dickens on Main. I think I saw Lori Hoffman come in. There you are. Come on up, Lori. Did you bring a team with you?
Yes, I did. Yeah, bring the team. Yeah, I told them they had to come and hold me down so I don't run.
Where are you going to run to? You can't start.
Well,
You do well.
I'm going to read the proclamation now to you and your team. Whereas Dickens on Main was organized as a community event to benefit the Smithville Community Improvement Organization, a 501c3 nonprofit, and to further a sense of community pride and service while attracting tourists and enhancing downtown retail activity. And whereas Dickens on Main was primarily organized by Lori Huffman of the Fat Cat and a dedicated team of volunteers who worked countless hours to deliver a first-time event built with a long-term vision of making this a premier attraction serving our local community. And whereas the inaugural Dickens on Main event held on December 15th and 16th, 2023, drew an estimated crowd of more than 1,500 visitors and shoppers to the downtown, resulting in a retail activity and exposure with citizen and volunteer participants wearing themed costumes, singing Christmas carols, and interacting with the crowd. And whereas the City of Smithville, City Manager Robert Tamble, Public Works Director Edward Belusic, Chief of Police David Repka, Jill Stroom, and Jose Rivera from the Economic Development and Grants Administration Department all committed significant time and resources above and beyond normal duties to ensure the event ran as smoothly as possible. And whereas as a result of the aforementioned teamwork and the fundraising efforts of Dickens on Main, despite the substantial financial startup cost of a first-year event of this magnitude, we'll still be able to deliver a contribution of more than $1,000 to the Community Improvement Organization.
Now therefore, we, the mayor and the city council. Now therefore, we, the mayor and the city council of Smithville, do hereby recognize and deliver this certificate of appreciation for the volunteerism and the work of Lori Hoffman, founder of Dickens on Main, and the many volunteers and sponsors who made this event possible and are striving to grow its impact on the community in coming years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have a presentation on camera upgrades by H&H Doors. Mr. Doug, are you ready?
1 second, she's loading my PowerPoint now. It didn't save the first. I apologize.
It's okay.
Yeah, Council and Mayor, let me give you a little background to this. Mr. Doug came through 7 months ago, was giving us a quote to secure the hallway, have an access door to the back here. And he looked up and saw our cameras, which was HIK Vision. He said, hold on now. Those are cameras that have been breached by the Chinese and the Russians. It's a cybersecurity threat. So this is the individual who first brought this to our attention.
So what actually perspired with that, and it's really interesting that I even caught it.
Is
But
your
I
mic
was-
on? Is your microphone on?
I'm sorry. I was actually training a new individual at our company, and we do a lot of government contracts. We go down on the border and do all the access control and cameras for the Border Patrol. And I was walking her through the camera placement in your main lobby. And as I was walking through the main lobby, and I looked up and I looked at the camera and I said to her, just be advised, we can't work on these cameras at all. And she goes, well, why? And I said, well, they have breaches in their security protocols from China, and it's been proven they can hack into them. They have actual video footage from places in Texas and Florida that show those cameras being breached. And I can't send my techs to log into those cameras and then send them to the border and have them go through their security programs there. So that was brought up, and just in a passing, it wasn't like we were trying to say anything. It was just, I was training her that, hey, if we get a call from Smithville, just know that we can't even send our techs here for the cameras. So we couldn't do that. So that's what kind of brought us into that. And a little bit about myself. My name's Doug Zelkowski. I work for H&H Doors. I'm a 10-year military veteran. I did 4 tours in Iraq, a total of 3 years on ground doing force protection and base security, along with then being a medic because I decided to change a little bit. So really enjoyed that. So this project has taken approximately 5 to 6 months of time, multiple walkthroughs, multiple buildings, multiple issues that we've brought and saw every time that we've gone through, and a lot of different iterations of changes. And some of that you'll see in this proposal in this PowerPoint presentation. And I'm sorry, I know death by PowerPoint, nobody likes it. And so I apologize for that first and foremost. But what you're going to see tonight is 2 proposals, one by a system via Verkada and another one via Axis. Both systems are very good. Both have their ways of working with the city and would both do really well. There's just big differences in the gaps and the coverages of cost. And I wanted to make sure I pointed that out for you guys. Slide. So just into the agenda, again, Verkada and Axis. We're going to show a little bit of what our capabilities are of putting the camera in placements, specifically at the airport. I have a map, geo map location that will be able to pull up those cameras, and you can look at how it will look prior to our install and what views you'd actually be able to see with that. Slide. So planning and design has taken about 6 months. Total locations is 13. And total cameras for the project after the last walkthrough was 102. The project started with 90, then it went down to 80 because of cost. And then after the final walkthrough and really identifying the needs of the city, it was determined 102 total cameras were needed. So that's what you'll see in the proposals, and that's kind of what we'll talk about today. And we're going to bring up both systems, Axis and Verkada. And that's what we're going to talk about verse. So it's not an and, it's verse. Both systems are very good. I don't want to think that one's better than the other. They are just very different in how they record. Slide. So what's the differences? Axis versus Verkada. Axis is on your left, Verkada is on your right, as it's facing me. Axis, zero reoccurring cost of ownership. What does that mean? Once you buy it, it's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. You can keep it on and everything. It's your product. So it's true ownership. If you don't like the software or the GUI that it records onto, but you don't want to get rid of the cameras, you can actually use the cameras on a different software, which is very important to note. It's not proprietary. With Verkada, it's cloud-based. What does that mean? I don't need servers. I don't need to have equipment back at my IDF room. However, every 5 years, which is based off of this proposal, you'll have to renew those licenses. If you don't renew those licenses, those cameras are no longer going to work. They're just going to be bricks. So you wouldn't even be able to view them. Both systems, so again, it goes with Verkada, system is proprietary, meaning if you wanted to use didn't like the software and you wanted to get rid of it, you'd have to replace every camera. You cannot pull those cameras into a different software. Warranty, it's a big difference here in my opinion, somewhat. 5-year warranty on all equipment from Axis and 10-year warranty on equipment from Verkada. In my opinion, a lot of times cameras, they don't go bad unless something happens. Lightning strike, somebody breaks it. They don't wear out very much. It's not something that's just like milk. It's not something you're gonna have to replace. Unlimited apps and users for the software, that's on both systems. Used by the military and government. I put that in there because we do a lot of that work, and I wanted to make sure that you understood that the government uses Axis. More government entities use Axis. Small cities, small municipalities, some large cities, not a lot yet, are going to the Verkada model, mainly because it's cloud-based and they don't have to worry about the server refreshing. And that would be the same thing if you have to refresh your computer at home. What you see is next day RMA on cameras from Verkada, meaning that they have a lot of cameras in stock. They build them in California. The average RMA, if return on a camera for Axis, is approximately a month. They also have the industry standard of reliability for over 30 years for their IP cameras. Axis is the first company to ever design an IP camera, where Verkada is fairly new. They haven't even been open for 8 years. So the hit or misses with them are still being kind of worked out. One of the things I've really lastly wanted to talk about was free software updates and firmware updates. Sometimes you'll see Verkada post a thing that says true cost of ownership, and they'll say that for Axis cameras, you have to pay for that. That's not true. Axis has free software and firmware updates. All you have to do is pull it from their website. Verkada, the same thing. But Verkada does it automatically. You'll never even know it's being done. Versus Axis, you actually have to do it on the servers like you do on your computer. You log into your computer and it's going to tell you, oh, it's time to update. That's what we got to do for Axis. It's the same concept. Run it and it's done. But both systems, very, very much the same when it comes to cameras. It's just the licensing and how they record with that. Slide. So what I'm going to show you camera-wise, this is my favorite camera of any camera system they have. This is called a fisheye camera. And I know that view looks awful and you think it's a terrible view of that camera, but out of that camera, I can get 13 different views. I can look 13 different ways out of that camera and make that so much more usable than any other camera that is possible. Slide. One of those views is just like that. That's from that same camera, and you can see down almost under the table. So that's a 6 megapixel camera. I've quoted 7 of those for the city of Smithville. That'll be a couple at the police station, 2 at the airport, and a couple in some other locations. And those are the kinds of views that you'll be able to pull. Along with that slide, you'll have this 180 view. That to me is my favorite view out of it. And that's, you can set those views to stay. So you're going to get 13 views out of one camera that you can pull up at all times. So you don't have to keep moving it and changing it and get it to go to that view. You set it, forget it, and that's the recording that you get. I like that. I personally think that's my favorite thing out of that camera. And it's really good because that's what it's called dewarped. So instead of looking like it, you know, when you see a picture of like the Earth and it looks really round and kind of warped out, that dewarps it and makes it a complete flat panoramic view. And I really like that with that camera. And I think it will give you more benefit with it than anything else. So that's my favorite camera. And again, you have 7 of them quoted on these quotes. Next. So some of the analytics that Axis has, and we're going to talk more about the Axis system because you guys have already received a system analysis with Verkada, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to talk more on what Axis offers, just so you understand the differences. So face detection, Axis Fence Guard, license plate verification and recognition, Axis Live Privacy Shield. What's important about that is if you put these in your area and you want to redact something out, say if there's a juvenile that stole something and you don't want that to be shown in the news, but you have to have it for your server, you can do that from this system, redact their face out and blur it, but it's still recorded as the actual view. So the police department, the sheriff's department, whoever can actually see it, but you can put it out to the citizens in the normal news as redacted, so it protects the anonymity of the minor. Loitering guard, if you have somebody standing around in your city hall or you have somebody at the library after hours, it's going to let you know. It can send an alert. That's the same thing with motion guard, just does motioning. Object analytics, you put something down. If I put this pen on the desk and I say, hey, I want you to watch this pen. If this pen moves, tell me. So I put it down, I tell it in the system, hey, watch the pen. If the pen moves, the system's going to tell me that the pen moved, and it'll tell you exactly when. It takes a snapshot of that, and you have it already recorded. Speed monitoring, say, I know we've talked about it on this main strip. You can actually put a speed verification out there. Not good enough to give tickets. It's not calibrated, but it will go off to let you know that people are going around the city too fast and endangering everybody. And people counter. People counter is something really interesting to me. I like that for school districts because a lot of school districts have an issue with overcrowding. And so that is counting how many people are in and out of that area at a certain amount of time. That is important to school districts because that's how they grow, right? It's like anything else. If there's too many people and it's too much crowding, we need to grow. So that's, I think, what a good thing for people counting is on that. That's just the basic analytics that they offer for the system and some of the ranges that they have. Next slide. So now we're going to go into the example of the camera locations at the airport. Again, this is a rough example of how it would be. And so how it would be set up there, you'd have 2 multi-sensor cameras, one on the front side of the hangar, one on the back side on a pole, and two fisheyes inside. So that's going to take the place of 12 cameras inside. So you're going to be able to see around the planes that are down there to see if anything's happening. You're going to be able to see on the back sides of the hangars that would actually be covered any other way. Then you have one inside the actual building and one on the back. Now, what you're going to see is you're like, well, those don't see very far. Well, if you look at the pink on that multi-sensor on the back on that pole, what that actually represents is how many megapixels out it's going to see. That camera will actually go all the way out to the road and you're going to be able to see it, but it would actually look really pixelated. But where that dark pink is, it's like you're standing right in front of them. You're going to be able to see that person like you're standing right in front of them, and their face would be extremely noticeable and be able to be picked out. And it's the same with all the other cameras on how it would be. That's a 12 megapixel camera. So you're getting 6 megapixels per lens at each point, which is really important to know that the megapixels, because that's how much it breaks out per view. And so that's how the basic setup would be for the airport, which is really important because you'd be able to monitor the whole runway, 90% of the parking area, the fuel, the road on the other side, and inside the hangar without any issues, and be able to see exactly what's going on around there in case any incidents happen. Slide. Okay, so now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of it, what it's going to cost. So the Axis Communications proposal was first, and for 102 cameras, that is 82 dome cameras for exterior and interior, 7 fisheyes, 11 multi-sensors, and 2 license plate reader cameras, 12 servers, because this is a server-based system, and then 1 direct NVR, wall racks. So a lot of what I've noticed on my multiple walkthroughs through the city is the IDF rooms were kind of, I don't want to say messed up, but not in proper order. There was stuff kind of all over the place and equipment was just thrown in there and wasn't properly taken care of or installed by the people who did it to begin with. So we're going to actually put these racks in that are mounted on the wall to mount our camera equipment to extend the longevity life of them, because that's how it should be. And then you're also going to have surge protectors to make sure that all the cameras are mounted to surge protection. If they get lightning struck, then only that camera and that wire goes bad. And then you're going to see point-to-point bridge and 2 cellular routers. And the reason those are there is because of your Reed Park, Riverbend Park, I'm sorry. And that is a really remote location without a lot of internet coverage. And then travel. And then work to be completed during normal hours. Now, what you see underneath that is we won't be doing any of the cabling. The cabling is where you're saving a bunch of money. Again, like I said, we talked about, we added so many cameras to the original quote, but we're not covering any of the wiring. That's removing wiring, or that's changing locations that were identified during walkthroughs. And that would be done by the city of Smithville per their request. And that is the cost for the Axis system for the 102 cameras. Next slide. And I gave you some alternates real quick. If you wanted to remove an exterior dome, you would get you a savings of $982. Same with an interior dome, because we're using the same type of camera. If you wanted to remove a multi-sensor, it'd be $2,000 savings, and removing of a fisheye would be $1,000. And then obviously, if we removed a lot at a certain location, we could change the recording and could lose a little bit of the server. So that would be some areas to cut and make some cost savings if requested. Next slide. Okay, so an Axis review on server base, so it's on premises storage. No reoccurring costs or changes unless something breaks. It's free software and updates from Axis. Cameras will be warranted up to 5 years with 1 year of labor. You'll own the equipment, and the equipment is on Viv 2, meaning if you don't like the software, the cameras can still be used with a different software. And that's the Axis review. Slide. Now we're going to talk about the Verkada proposal. It's a little bit different. So the Verkada proposal, the same 102 cameras, the same location, $302,556. The cost of the 5-year licenses, the current cost, remember, I want you to be sure you remember this, is that will have to be reoccurred at 5 years, and that price will increase. And that price currently sits at $73,086. But the benefits of that are these cameras are plug and play. I don't have anything in my server room. They're plugged in my network switch and they're recorded somewhere else. I don't have to worry about any issues with that server or recording. I don't have to go down the line. It's the exact same setup as the Axis. Everything is absolutely the same, other than you're missing the servers. We're just plugging them into the network switches that we're providing and going that way. So that's the cost of the Verkada proposal. Slide. And the alternates would be a little bit different. As you can see, the cameras cost quite a bit more. $1,625 for removing of a dome exterior. Interior would be $1,329. Multi-sensor $4,000, and at a fisheye would be $2,000. And slide. So cloud-based storage. No server to maintain or upkeep. Licenses will need to be renewed every 5 years. Costing will increase. And I say that to be very open and transparent. I don't want you to think that it would be the same. Cameras will be on a warranty for 10 years for parts and 1 year for labor. If the licenses aren't renewed, the cameras will stop recording and working until they're updated, period. And the equipment is proprietary. If you don't like the software at all the equipment would need to be replaced. Slide. So in summary, I'm Doug with H&H Door, and that is the Axis and communications camera and Verkada systems. Is there really any questions from you guys at this point?
Just want to say that I've used access cameras at American Airlines when I was employed by American, and I installed and operated them for over 15 years. They are the industry standard. To me, this is the option that we need. I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Can we get in the server room for the recording? Can we use removable hard drives that we can switch out to keep data?
So they are not, the ones that I put in there are not RAD5, other than the rec center, because it was the only one large enough to require that.
Okay.
But I can change the server costing out to add the RAID 5 storage if that's what's something that you would want. Yes.
That's just something to consider. It's just an ask in case.
Yes, sir.
We need to, keep the data longer.
Absolutely.
Than we would think. So,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Mayor, may I speak? Councilman Jenkins, I I certainly respect your opinion on this, and if we move forward, I'm going to rely on your expertise, so thank you for adding that. I've got two primary questions. First of all, how many cameras were in the original proposal?
So the original proposal was around 90 something, and then it went down to 80. And, and then it jumped up after the walkthroughs and multiple location walkthroughs.
What's the total again?
102.
102?
Yes, sir.
Um, Based on my previously stated concerns on the budget and tax note spending, I've been focused on trying to limit our spending on must-have projects versus nice-to-have. And so I would ask you and possibly Chief Repka, your thoughts might be appreciated if this is appropriate. What would you deem of this project? What is a must-have to protect the security and safety of the citizens versus how much of this is nice to have?
So your city manager and emergency management planning would be the best revenue to attach with that, as I don't know the direct needs of security for the city of Smithville of what you're needing. My walkthrough was determined as I walked through the buildings and looked at the camera placement and what was there, and if we needed to move them for better vantage points on each building. But to determine what's actually a must and a not must would be something that a group from the city should sit down and determine. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Are we taking action tonight, or we're just, this is the proposal?
Yes, this is just a proposal.
all right,
I
then.
will add to that, there are 13 locations, and what you
Mhm.
have to have, not have to have, each of my department heads met with Doug and Verkada to
Mhm.
determine this is what we need.
Yeah.
And different facilities have different needs, obviously. But yes, it was thoroughly vetted with my department, with Doug and his team as to what we actually did need. And there were things we didn't think about. Like, we didn't have any cameras at Riverbend to start off, or the recycle center. So
And those were both very challenging locations. So the recycling center and the waste center were initially bid separately, but come to find out they're actually together. All the network cabling is pulled in one location. So
And so food for thought for my colleagues and for the city manager. Maybe we're looking at whether this is an immediate need or something that we can do in steps or later on down the line when we fully evaluated any opportunities for capital spending that we have come up.
can you let me know what's the timing from if they do pull the trigger and say, yes, let's do this at another meeting? We're not making a decision tonight.
Absolutely.
Uh,
So the biggest thing for that would be coordinating with you guys to ensure the cable placement would be completed. Ordering, say if we received a PO tomorrow, we would have the equipment, once we verified with you that these are the exact locations and everything was done, we were under contract, we would be able to either provide a submittal, which is fairly normal for a project this size, where we provide, the detailed documents that other people have seen, and you know which ones I'm talking about with the planning. They would be signed off and they'd be like, yep, that's exactly where we want it. That's how we want it. And that's it. And then we would buy everything. And that to get into stock would be about 6 to 8 weeks. And then putting you on the schedule, you would probably look at October would be fully installed to November, would be 100% installed. Yes, ma'am. That's our average for a project of this size, just because it takes a long time to make sure everything's done correctly.
And we did listen to the concerns of the council and the citizens about the cost. This is why I like the Axis proposal and Doug, because it's, about 50,000 cheaper for now, and you're not getting hit 5 years from now with 73,000.
Yes, sir. And I'm very much agnostic when it comes to systems, right? I'm an integrator. I look at what the needs are of my client and determine what systems are needed. The reason I quoted the Verkada was because that was what was asked. I wouldn't even really mend that for you guys at this point because of the cost savings that you would get with the Axis system. Plus, I really like their cameras and their durability.
So this may be best asked for Robert. We obviously have cameras existing, and the real impetus to change was the discovery perhaps that these are not the right cameras, but there has to be more to it. So are we expanding coverage beyond what we have today? Or are we simply replacing it with newer and better technology?
We're doing both. We've seen in City Hall, this thing, Jennifer, we'll look at the cameras and it's all black in the lobby. Sometimes it's and there's nothing in front of the camera like a spider or we're getting infiltrated somehow, or they're not reliable. So yes, to answer your question, we're expanding and replacing.
So what do we have today? There's 13 locations proposed here. I think I heard someone say with 102 cameras.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, that's an average of about 8, but I assume there's certain locations that have well more than 8 and some
Yes,
locations
sir.
that have well less than 8. So what do we have today? Roughly
Our biggest, about 100.
about a
Yeah, if I'd have to go
Those
back
are
in my
close.
notes, I believe you have 112,
Yeah.
but there is some that we couldn't even track down where they were recording. It was just, I found cameras, but couldn't find out where they were going.
Right. So my point is that assuming that they were working, because presumably they were working when they were installed, and there was some rationale behind why we chose those locations, notwithstanding the equipment may no longer be good. We're really essentially, for the most part, replacing what we have today with newer and better. You said there's a little expansion, but would you characterize that as minimal since?
Yeah, it would be minimal expansion.
Yeah,
but
so really what we
this-
have today, we're really just talking about replacing what we have.
So it's replacing and also changing and optimizing view locations.
yeah.
So a lot of what you have now is in really poor view of what you would actually like to see. The library is case in point. You have 4 corners on a library that you can only see one direction.
So this is a question of city manager as well as maybe your colleagues. You know, how do we feel about people being able to be viewed in public places around town? Is the trade-off for $250,000 for that potential benefit? What do we think the value proposition here is versus just having a bunch of cameras where people can see?
So the security aspect of it is huge. And case in point happened today in Fort Worth. A hotel exploded due to a gas leak inside the building. And they weren't able to tell what happened, but because camera footage actually will show them what actually happened before, during, and after, they're going to be able to track that emergency situation. So it's not always for personnel, it's for the whole system of the city and how the city actually functions in emergency situations.
Is there a map that shows where the cameras are today or where they'd be proposed? I didn't see it in here.
Well, I didn't do that for security purposes. But yes, I can get that to you. He's done a very good job of listing out 13 locations, the type and placement of such cameras.
Yes, sir. So there is that capability. The problem that I came with the city of Smithville is you guys don't have a fire marshal code that requires you to have an internal plans of every city building. So you don't have escape plans that I can reference, not even for the city hall. So where I could go and actually put camera plans on. The only building that I was able to find that had those currently was the rec center, and they were hand drawn. And so that was actually part of one of the issues.
Those are in work.
Okay,
They're working.
so
Yes, sir.
So is it safe to say that the cameras are city hall, airport, library, rec center? Are they parks? Riverbend is one. What about MLK, Train Park, Main Street?
Planned. Those are all
Sewer
planned.
plants.
MLK, yes, you did have MLK Park?
I don't believe MLK was part of it. No, sir. Riverbend was the main issue.
Because it's very
Um,
remote.
And it was remote, and then the RV park part of it,
Yeah.
Recycling center.
the recycling center, the waste center,
We're looking at workforce training center as well.
workforce training center, the city, so city hall, library, Riverbend, the airport, waste, recycle,
Veterans Park.
Veterans Park. And so Veterans Park, case in point, that's where the 5 cameras are that I couldn't find. So instead of adding multiple cameras to that location, I added one multi-sensor to the back of the rec center that'll cover that entire park. So
And some of these cameras are 15 years old. I came into, where does this camera go? I mean,
yeah, you
the
couldn't-
actual
I couldn't
display
find
is
it.
in the IT room, in the rec center for the Veterans Park. What? Okay.
Yeah, so, and then it would give, yes, ma'am, it would make the city safer because you would be able to look and see what actually happens. You know, there wouldn't be any more pointing fingers if it happened at this location. And that's what cameras are really there for.
And
unless
I
somebody's
believe you
watching.
went over that, if we are looking at footage, faces can be blurred to protect
Absolutely.
anybody's identity or anything else. So that's just an added layer of security for them.
Absolutely. And facial recognition is part of it, and closed look and finding things that you need to find. And like I said, object identification.
So council, what I'd like to do is continue to work with Doug to fine tune or hone this proposal and come back with you with the complete list of what you're asking for and the final cost. Fair enough?
Because you have the presentation tonight to open the door, in a sense, to some of the needs we have. HH, or I know. That was a pun intended.
I
All
like
right,
it.
any other questions? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Nice presentation. Now we will retire into an executive session. Executive meeting pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Government Code, Vernon's Texas Code, annotated in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551071, consultation with the attorney. Oh, Hammer. We'll be right back. We're going to go back into our open meeting. Next item on the agenda. Oh. Nobody here? Oh. We are back. I think I'm in there. I'm not over. Ready? We're going back into the open meeting. Next item on the agenda is discussion and action as a result of the executive meeting. No action will be taken. Approval of the minutes for December 11th, 2023 council meeting and public hearing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Move we approve the minutes as presented.
Second that.
A motion's been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2. Motion, you good? Motion approved. Next item on the agenda.
Mayor, I'm
public-
sorry, I did have a question. I had no
Oh,
problem.
sorry.
Yeah, no, it's just a point of clarification on the issue discussing the cemetery plots. I'm reading the motion is that we authorize the city manager to discuss the contract with All Funeral and bring a clean copy back to the council for review and approval. So it was not approved. This is coming back for review, correct? Making sure I understand the way it was working. Okay, no problems. Thank you.
Are we good? Okay, so you still stand? Okay. Now we're on to the public comment. How many people we have signed up to speak?
Three.
Okay, 3 people are signed up to speak. We are going to be reminded at this time, each person will have, I'm sorry, what's wrong, Ms. Bush? Oh, okay. Everybody will have 3 minutes to speak. So when you go up to the mic, please introduce yourself. And that's all I really need to say. Did I need to introduce myself? Is that all?
And remind them about this is just one-way communication.
And remember, this is just one-way communication. There will be no questions answered by the council. Okay? Who's our first one?
John Schindler,
Come on down.
and make sure the mic is on.
3 minutes. I was spoke with, I'll have brain damage before I leave out here talking for 3 minutes.
You may have to hold the mic. You're pretty tall.
Okay. Pardon?
The smaller one?
Oh, this, all right.
Thank you.
I only read this for your information only. I only read this for your information only. My name is John Schindler. I'm noticing you of a claim of breach of contract resulting in my disfranchisement by the city of Smithville. This letter is notice of my claim and my last attempt to resolve this matter without litigation. In December of 2021, I made an application for a polling meter and was issued a receipt on December 15th, 2021. The foreman told me that I would need to build a road to where I wanted to pole and clear a spot for its installation. I completed that task shortly thereafter. In February of 2022, Smithville Code Enforcement began to pester me about a building permit. I'm not a statutory creature. I'm a man, and I believe my rights come from nature's laws and nature's God as enumerated in the Declaration of Independence, and I honor and cherish that independence. I read the Smithville ordinances and found that I am not one who needs to ask permission of the city to build my home. The city of Smithville, like all municipalities, is a statutory legal entity. Its statutory authority is to oversee the health and safety of the community. It cannot infringe on my rights unless there is a threat of imminent danger. The Code Construction Act 311.005 definitions. 2, person includes corporation, organization, government, subdivision, or any other legal entity. I am not a legal entity and will not be treated as such. I give you this notice because I'm a peaceful man and do not wish to be considered in a hostile or negative light by my soon-to-be neighbors. Of course, this also brings up deceptive trade practice and other causes of action, the most egregious being the constitutional violations, most prominent being Article 1, Section 19 of the Texas Constitution, deprivation of property, privileges, or immunities, and disfranchisement without due course of law. As one who cares for Smithville and its people, I am asking you for the last time, please install electrical service to my house immediately, or it will be taken as granted that you don't care about my rights and that your greed to fleece men and women of your community is greater than your allegiance to the supreme law of the land and your oath to the Constitution. And the truth is legally, you just don't have the authority to execute and impose your ordinances on anything but other legal entities. I believe you to be responsible people who want to uphold the law, so I will expect the service I have requested and paid for to be in place within 2 weeks of this notice. Thank you.
Agenda?
Kellogg is here. I think she may have left. I think she
Kellogg?
left. Jenny Bush?
Jenny? Please don't. Please state your name.
My name is Jenny Bush, 204th Avenue, Queen of the Hill. First off, I want to say this is wonderful that we have opportunity to speak up about some new ideas or maybe expressing viewpoints. I'm here to propose that we create some kind of for lack of a better word, citizen advisory groups, or I don't know, come up with some language that they be formed to work on decisions that affect our quality of our life in the city or our pocketbook. So really, because gone are the days that an elected official makes decisions solely based on his or her opinion. And I've probably expressed that to some people already. I believe that there are persons who voted for your leadership are asking you to listen to them and believe that you will vote for them on certain matters. But sometimes we don't have enough information, and we want to get more information, and we'd like to get our opinions over to you easier. So I'd like to ask if we could come up with a way that more of us can find out what you guys know and how stuff happens before it gets out to just this meeting or to an agenda item or to a next door neighbor post. Maybe there's another method that we could do. It's for transparency and for the community and communication kind of purposes. That's my request. Thank you.
On the agenda?
You that just pulled, so that was it.
Thank you for your time. Next item on the agenda is hearing from planning and zoning. Oh, I was looking for Mr. Wee Wee. Welcome, Caroline. A change in zoning class from CF Community Facilities District to SF2 Single Family Duplex District for property ID 20574, 306 Walker Street, Smithfield, Texas, Block 81, Lot 9, property owner Janet Smith.
Good evening. Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you.
There was no report for the December meeting because there were two items. One item y'all talked about last month, and the other item, the gentleman withdrew his item from consideration. However, in the November P and Z meeting, an item was accidentally overlooked for the December meeting. It should have been on the December agenda and it was accidentally overlooked. So that's what we're here to discuss tonight, which is discussion and action on the change for the zoning of CF, which is Community Facilities District, to SF2, the Single Family Duplex District, for property ID 20574 at 306 Walker Street, Smithfield, City Block 81, Lot 9, property owner Janet Smith. The applicant has wanted to change the zone to SF2 because she's interested in building a building on that site, and wants to be residential rather than community. After there was some brief discussion at the meeting, we all unanimously approved her request. That was basically, it was very simple. Do y'all have any questions? Yes,
I
sir.
didn't see in the package, is it SF2 all around it? Because in the package, it was referenced to to conform to the surrounding
There's-
uses. Is
I
it SF2
believe
around
it's
it?
Mixed SF1 and SF2.
Yeah, but there is some SF2 around it.
Yes, sir. That's it. Okay, thank you.
I close the open meeting and go into the public hearing. I will close the public hearing and go into the open meeting. Discussion and action on a change in zoning class from CF Community Facility District to SF2 Single Family District Duplex District for property ID 20574 306 Walker Street, Smithville, Texas, Block 81, Lot 9, property owner Janet Smith. Any questions? Entertain a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the zoning class change from CF to Community Facilities District to SF2 Single Family Duplex District for property ID 20574 306 Walker Street, Smithville, Block 81, Lot 9, property owner Janet Smith.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Motion is approved. I don't know what else I'm gonna do with that. Number 14, discussion and action on appointments to the Bastrop County Public Health Task Force, one elected official and one community leader. Robert, take it away.
We're going to have a presentation. Ms. Donna Nichols, yes, who's the interim executive director of the Bastrop County Health Department.
Good evening, City Council, and Happy New Year. So glad to see all of you. My name is Donna Nichols, and I am the interim executive director of the newly created Bastrop County Public Health Department. I come to you with about 45 plus years of experience in public health from numerous states and the federal government. I won't go into any more travelogue for Donna's career than just to say that, and to say that I am a former resident of the Smithville area, about 25 years of living in this lovely town and surrounding area. So glad to see all of you. So, wow, what a year. What a way to end 2023 with Bastrop County commissioners and the judge unanimously voting to create a public health department for the county. What a year. Next slide, if you would, Jennifer. There are several things that I really want to talk about tonight. One is to talk a little bit about who my team is and who the wonderful things they bring to the table. A little bit about the tipping point, what really made this happen. A little bit about the public health definition and the legal authority behind establishing a public health department. What's the business case? What are the essential services? A little bit about the year ahead in terms of strategy, structure, and operational planning, and how we want to engage our city councils and our county precincts going forward, as well as what are our next steps in our ask of you this evening. Next slide, Jennifer. So who's on the team? And two absolutely fabulous Smithville leaders are here. Linda Wilson, give the royal wave if you would, Linda, and Carla Culberson, who is not named up here. She's new to the team. So glad to have Carla joining us. Pompeo Chavez is our public health authority. And then, of course, myself with the county health department. Next slide, Jennifer. I love this dog. So tipping point, if you think about it, what really made the county think deeply and widely about making this decision? One is population growth and diversity. You know, back when we were in the 80s, we had maybe 38,000 in the county. We're now at 106,000 in the county. Goodness, our diversity is changing. The fact that we've had numerous natural disasters and a health disaster through COVID, the fact that we are seeing so many unmet public health needs, and the fact that synergistically, our leadership in the county started saying, hey, we need this. We truly need it. It's timely. We're feeling like we're having to run to catch up. And so with all of this on the tops of our heads, we were saying, hey, we need to do something about this. You may remember that we did a foundational study through Texas A&M, and Texas A&M said, hey, Donna, would you go and visit with a few people in the county and kind of get their opinion about what's needed? What are the next steps? We interviewed, and the we is Linda Wilson and I largely, interviewed about 70 people in the county. And roughly 95% said, hey, we need a health department. Not only did they say that, but there were three things that really surfaced in that conversation. One, the need for accountability. Two, transparency and sustainability were the themes that were across all the interviews, in addition to the communication and the need for a centralized, unified voice for health in the county. Next slide, Jennifer. So when we start to think about public health and what it is, it's both a science and an art. It's about preventing disease, promoting health, and protecting health. If I were to describe it in 3 words, it's about prevention, promotion, and protection. It's about how we as an organization or as a society organize ourselves to keep ourselves healthy and to create a good quality of life for all of us that live in this county. Next slide. So what's the legal authority? Chapter 121 of the Texas Health and Safety Code establishes what is understood to be 3 different types of health units. One is a health unit, one is a department, one is a district. So you might say, hey, Donna, what's the difference between all of that? A unit is usually a code enforcement only. A health department is usually a county or a city. In the code, it says any city that is 5,000 or stronger in population. Texas is a home rule state. That community could establish its own health department. For those districts, which is the third one, the district is a combination of either counties or a county and cities or any combination thereof. So you might guess, who around in the Central Texas area is a district? Williamson County is a district. They started out as a county health department. They now work with not only the county, but their 3 major communities in Williamson County because they have 750,000 in population now, as compared to when they originally formed, which was in 1940 as a unit, and then later in the 80s as a department, a county department. So there are those around us that have different variations on the theme. So what are the essential services of public health? There are 10. These are codified in law. They are expressed in various functions. And if you would, Jennifer, go to the next slide. The various functions being assurance, assessment, and policy development. Again, those are the 10 services in that nice little circle. And no, it's not your eyes. That slide is fuzzy. So don't worry about your eyesight. The center part is about health for all or equity. Next slide, Jennifer. So what are those 5 pillars, if you will, in public health? Communicable disease, chronic disease and injury, environmental public health, maternal child health and family health, and access to and linkage with clinical care. Those are the 5 pillars. Those 5 pillars are actually identified through a national board known as the Public Health Accreditation Board that provides some level of oversight nationally to all public health units, departments, and districts. Next slide, please. Business case. So what does a modest investment of $10 of public health spending buy you? Even though these figures are small, they're really big in the context of the population. A decrease of 7.4% in infectious disease morbidity. and a 1.5% decrease in premature mortality at the county level. Again, remember, it's $10. An increase of 0.6% in the proportion of the population in very good or excellent health. And lastly, a decrease of 0.4 cases of salmonella per 10,000 person years. Now, I just learned the other day, and in public health in the state of Texas, Texas is divided up into public health regions. And in principle, the public health region supports the counties without a public health facility or department. I learned the other day, because this data doesn't get back to us, and it's the very thing that we need to know, is that I learned that the cases of salmonella went up drastically immediately after COVID, and businesses went back to serving folks. And so we could do a better job of that if we knew that that was occurring. Next slide, please, Jennifer. So what's this year going to be like? Well, it's going to be a little frantic manic, but that's okay. We have a year of developmental work, and there are some major decisions that we need to make. One, around infrastructure funding. Two, around governance and administrative systems, if you will. Current capabilities, gaps, and skill sets. We know that there are various and sundry services that are public health services. Many of those services may or may not be as complete, may or may not be filling the gaps that we need to fill, and we may not have the skill sets to be able to do the job even better than what we're doing now. So there's a real need to look across at all of that. There's a real need to talk about physical location. There's a real need to talk about priorities, and whose priorities. It's the whole county's priorities. It's your priorities, our priorities. They're all one and the same. What are the core services and the financing models that support those? And then the county folks, our county commissioners, also said to us, think about 3 to 5 years out on the horizon, and what redesignation to potentially a district might mean. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's my ask coming up. I'm about ready to hit this one. What we really need to do in order to establish our priorities, to get our operational and our strategies developed, is to appoint a countywide public health task force so that we have recommendations going in front of our county commissioners within a year. We're asking our city councils to appoint a community leader and an elected official from each of our 3 municipalities and our 4 county precincts by the end of January 2024. Next slide, please. So tonight, what I want to ask you as a city council to do is to identify and appoint an elected official and a community leader to the task force. And then there's a second ask to that, is to provide a letter of commitment that we can use to seek HRSA funding. We just happened to find a grant announcement that fits us perfectly, by the way. And it's a little bit of funding that can help us with the task force and help us coordinate all the work that's going to have to be done. The realization here is that this is a working committee, a strongly working committee. We've not identified the frequency or the amount of time that will be invested by both of these leaders from the city council as yet, until we seat the first meeting. After that, we'll ask the entire task force the pleasure of frequency and the amount of time. So our understanding is that we will have our first seating in February of 2024, with the understanding that we will have names of community leaders and elected officials from all 3 municipalities and the precincts by the end of January. We have provided a template of a letter of commitment so that we can add that to our grant application, which will go in, by the way, January 26th. And we thank you endlessly for allowing us to be here tonight and to ask if you would please offer up some names of individuals who can best meet the needs of that task force. Thank you so much. This is a wonderful project. Please come be a part of this. It is what will propel us forward in terms of a rural health system in this county and to step us into that next century. So please be a part of it. I want to end with a quote that was actually given by someone, and I can't remember who actually said this, but this was in the foundational study. It's not about whether we can afford a public health in this county, but whether we can afford not to create a public health department, given our ever-increasing population, health and environmental concerns, and the multitude of health and natural disasters we've already experienced. We know we can anticipate experiencing many of these same threats well into our future. So the time is now. So thank you all very much. I look forward to working with all of you.
No. Where is the date set for
We
that?
have not set that date. Most likely Judge Klaus will call that meeting because we will have a quorum present for that meeting, and we'll have to either set it during working days to give the respective public announcement of meeting.
Is there any flexibility in the end of January having our names submitted? I'm totally in favor of this. I'm just looking at the timing because this has been a short notice.
I'm happy to have your name submitted at any time you would like to give it, Mr. Jameson.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you all.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Very good presentation, council and mayor. Mayor Forrester has volunteered to serve as the elected official, and I'm willing to serve as the community leader, given my emergency management experience, environmental health and safety experience, business continuity experience. We've both attended the meetings that have been held thus far, and that's our recommendation. Questions?
What process did we use to solicit interest in particularly the citizen leader portion of this? What was our process? In light of us trying to encourage and expand citizen involvement in city projects and processes, I just don't, what process did we use to decide?
Not much of one of his timing. They needed this yesterday. So I didn't open it up to a lot of process. Again, you have the option to recommend anyone you'd like.
Well, I'm
So I
not
didn't put a
prepared to do that.
process.
That's why I was
Yeah.
trying to understand what process we did use. If we were up against a time constraint, I did think that she indicated there was some flexibility.
The date that.
They can't hear you. Sorry.
All right, sorry. I normally have a gymnasium voice, so.
They can hear you online.
They can hear me online?
They cannot hear you online. That's why you have to come
Got
back.
it. Okay, thank you. The date that we need a letter of commitment is for the January 26 grant submission. However, the sooner the better, so that we can put a meeting together and know who to call to that meeting. So the process that's used is the process the city council wishes to use. We're just simply in a position to say we need a community leader and an elected official from the municipality.
Understood. Thank you.
You bet.
make any recommendations. I do not want to delay this process whatsoever. However, I do think that we should discuss moving forward our processes for any appointments. I don't know, and I think we could get this easily enough, what appointments that we as a council are responsible for approving going forward, whether it's the city manager or the mayor. Does it need to come to us from a process standpoint for approval? And if so, we need to work something out where we have more advanced notice so we can provide the input.
Very good.
Yeah, I think Councilman makes a good point. I know I didn't know anything about the recommendations that were going to be made until the package came out. Personally, I think it's not at all inappropriate for the mayor to be the elected, representative. It's pretty logical. And I know Robert's resume is very, very impressive when it comes to health. If you go and look at his LinkedIn site, it's really unbelievable. I mean, this is kind of his fairway. So I'm not necessarily opposed to the recommendations, but I do think that it would be fair and prudent to allow citizens the same opportunity to express any interest they might have, just like we would with the planning and zoning appointment or any of the others. So, my preference, I'm not prepared to vote against these recommendations, but I would ask my colleagues to consider whether it's possible to delay it. If there's flexibility, we could give the letter, we could vote on approving the letter tonight, and then we could take up the appointments at the next meeting and then give the citizens the opportunity to express any interest, and then their names could be thrown in the hat. That would be my recommendation.
Timing wise, the second Monday in February is probably around the 12th or 14th, and I don't know what kind of burden that would put on you guys.
We'd shorten it for sure.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the recommendations that we're making. Again, I would not vote against that. I'm just looking for the ability to provide more opportunity for citizens to become involved in the process. And that maybe, Tom, I would be amenable to a motion if you wanted to amend that. I just don't know logistically if we can do it.
I think we can make whatever motion we want, and the council can decide whether they want to agree with it or not. I want to reiterate, I don't think it's inappropriate at all for the mayor to be the representative, and I think Robert is eminently qualified based on what I know is the expectations for the position. My focus is on, and I don't in any way want to hinder taking action tonight on the letter, which I think is really your most time-sensitive issue.
It is.
I think just proper protocol would be, we all recognize that we don't have a problem with the names that are presented today, but these are the only names that we're being asked to consider. If we opened it up for another 30 days and allowed citizens that might have an interest in serving to present, they may come forward and we may change our mind. We probably won't. So I don't see any harm in waiting on the appointments with the recognition that the two that are produced are very qualified. So that would be my proposal. That would be, I'll make a motion that we approve the letter that's presented and that we delay on taking action on the appointments until the next meeting and allow citizens the opportunity, just like we would with any of the other boards and commissions, to make an application.
If I'm, comment, please. I have a question.
Yes.
Can, on the task force, say in 6 months or something, or something else happens, can these appointees be changed at our
I-
discretion?
Yeah,
And-
I would
and how
see
much
no
of a
problem
hardship-
with that.
How much of a hardship would that put on the task force?
It requires a catch-up moment.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to put Smithville between a rock and a hard place if both of your members leave.
Mm-hmm.
If you have one that may leave for various and sundry reasons, it's easy to catch up because your dance partner is still there.
Mm-hmm.
So I see no problem with change as long as that change isn't continual. Meaning multiple people there over time, but there is some continuity going forward.
So how, if we make the motion as I have talked about, I want to again ask, and just some really good clarification.
Mhm.
What kind of time crunch does that put you under? Does that make it so that you're gonna have to kind of fend off? Or if we do it the first, if we do it that second week in February, is that going to cause a hardship on the task force?
Let me just sort of phrase it this way. We have a developmental year that ends in September with the fiscal year. So that may mean that we may have to compress a lot of meetings into a very shortened calendar year or fiscal year, which is starting off short as it is. You know, I am very willing to be as flexible as possible so that you feel confident with your representatives and that you've given due consideration to folks in your community. Because really, public health is about community. So I have to kind of weigh on that side of the equation, stand on that side of the equation.
Let me make a recommendation. Maybe we can put something out from our community engagement coordinator, listing what you're looking for, have a deadline of the 31st of January to submit your application. And
That
then
would
we
be
can,
perfect.
as far as the letter goes, if we,
Mhm.
I have a draft letter of commitment
Right,
that has, yeah, you can,
yeah,
okay,
right,
fair enough.
Just delaying the appointment
Right.
until the 31st. I'll amend the motion to say
Right.
by the 31st and then be decided on.
Well, this identifies Mayor Forrester and myself as accordingly, but she needs it by the 26th,
Yeah.
don't you?
You just need the letter.
I need a letter. Correct.
For the grant.
Grant portion you need, not the.
We weren't contacted till like November. When was our first meeting?
Yeah, I think it was
It was-
November. It was,
Honestly, this was presented to us in a month.
yeah,
I mean, I know
was
you're
quick.
saying that we didn't take it to the community
Mhm.
or anything of that nature, but honestly, this was given to us at the beginning of December. And this is a very important aspect that has been missing in our county for a long time.
Mhm.
And so we weren't not engaging anybody. We truly are making sure we're going forward with
Well-
all the proper people bringing the message back
Right.
to Smithfield that we are not
Right.
left behind.
Right.
Mitch, if you want to step up, I'm fine with it.
No, that's
Talk
not
to
my,
us.
No,
You're
no, no.
welcome
Let me,
to.
let me.
I did it because I believe in this town and I believe in the program that her and Dr. Nichols are bringing. They have a lot of substantial people and nobody's getting left behind. Mitch, if you want to do this, that's fine with me. Or Tom, I'm really okay with it.
Let me make a couple comments. One is we have a motion on the table that I think needs to be dealt with, but before we do that, this council has many months ago engaged with this, well before this authority was created. We did a resolution in here last year in support of it.
You did.
Encouraging. We
You
have
did.
been very,
Mhm.
very participatory and active. I
Mhm.
myself have attended all
Mhm.
but one hospital authority
Mhm.
board meeting. Both of you know that. I've arranged
Mhm.
meetings and joined you at Representative Gertis's office in Austin to
Exactly.
get
Yeah.
state
You did.
elected official support. So
Mhm.
there's no reason anyone should suggest that the city council for the Smithville is leaving anybody behind. We've actually been the opposite. I think we've been a leader, and I think we should approve the part of the motion that they need in order to go forward with the grant. And that we should, just out of propriety, as Robert recommended, just give people the opportunity. If there's some citizens out there that may have qualifications and want to serve, that we give them the opportunity. I understand we may have just gotten it, but that doesn't prevent us from still giving people the opportunity. So my motion, I would amend it to use the 31st deadline that Robert said, to use the coordinator as the way to get that out. So that's my.
What-
prior to seconding, may I ask for a clarification? Because will this now require us to have a special meeting to approve prior to the February?
Mhm.
Say
Yep.
it again. What do we have to do?
If Councilman Etheridge were to amend his motion and we were to make our decision or actually name the people by the 31st, would that not require us to have a special council meeting to approve it?
Let me be clear about the amendment. I'm only amending it is the deadline for when the applications would be submitted. Our council schedule would still remain the same. It would just be, I think Robert's recommendation was to have the cutoff for applications be the 31st. We could still keep the same council date to make the actual decision.
Correct.
So that's the amendment, is to just make the 31st the deadline for applications submitted and use our community engagement coordinator as the vehicle.
Jennifer, can you please put the letter of commitment up on the screen? I'm going to further clarify this. Again, what I understand,
Sure.
you're up against a deadline for the grant, which requires a
Correct.
letter of commitment that identifies a community leader and elected official.
Correct.
The document that I provided provides both as it stands
Correct.
now. What I'm hearing you say, to get the grant in, it has to be before the 26th for this letter of commitment.
Correct. The grant is submitted on January
If you need the
26th.
names in order to do the grant, then we need to take action tonight. If that's a requirement for the grant,
It
then I would be
is.
prepared to support. I mean, we don't need
Yeah.
to hold that up, but I
Yeah.
thought it was a bifurcated process, is you needed a commitment for the grant and not necessarily the names. But if you need the names to proceed with the grant, then I don't think we should delay that.
Part of the HRSA grant guidance suggest that folks who live in the county be identified by name. It is a requirement of HRSA. They're concerned about folks who live outside the county but function inside the county to work. So that allows you the opportunity to go ahead and have Mayor Forrester and City Manager Tamble to be a part of the letter now. That does not preclude you from adding or substituting a community leader later on.
That's a good point. Well, I think to make it clean, I think I would withdraw and be prepared to support it as presented, and just ask this council that we do what we said, which is that we open it up and that we potentially reconsider at the next council. But that way we can approve it as presented, so you have what you need.
Right.
So can I withdraw and then withdraw the motion? Yes. And then if you want me to make the motion, I will. but-
Before you do, I want to clarify it. Again, I have no problem if someone from the community would love to step up and do this. It was a function of timing. I had the experience. Be more than happy to not put something else on my plate, but I will support it as best as I can until that time. Fair enough? Okay.
That's amen to me too.
That-
Okay, make a motion. Yes, somebody.
May have already used up my allotted words, isn't it? That you only have so many words. that
All
you
right,
can
Tom,
use in
I'll
a
go
day.
ahead and do
Lay it
this.
on us.
I'll make a motion
do
that
it.
we accept the letter that's going into for the Bastrop Public Health Department with Representative Sharon Forster as the community leader and Robert Tamble, as the elected, Sharon Forster as the elected official and Robert Tamble as the community leader.
I'll second.
A motion's been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's approved.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. And we have your letter.
Excellent.
Mayor, do we make a note that there's an action item for follow-up to the next meeting?
Thank you so much for all you've done and everything that you are both doing on this. This is really good works. All of you,
Yeah,
all
very
of you. Thank
informative.
you.
And thank you. Uh-oh, where's Jennifer go? Oh. That's funny. She got a bad bag of leg.
Mayor, when she gets back, can we make a note as an action item for follow-up on what we said we were gonna do there?
Sure. When she get back, she'll make a note. Don't down. Maybe so. Don't be puffing on your keys. That ain't gonna work real well for you. He has cough drops. He has a puffer now. He lost his puffer. All right, term.
Should I get that letter from? Bye-bye. Here she comes. Oh, goodness. Worth its weight in gold. Thank you for all your hard work. For number 15.
Did you make a note that we do a follow-up?
Thank you.
Reiterate that action. I'm going to have the community engagement coordinator send out a request for volunteers to serve as a community leader on the Bastrop County Health Department Task Force.
Yes.
Deadline, January 31st.
Yes.
Mhm.
Are we ready? Discussion and action on cemetery software contract with All Funeral Services. And I believe we have somebody signed up to speak.
Jenny Bush.
Hey, Jenny.
Okay. Jenny Bush, 204th Avenue, Queen of the Hill, and I'm just the last one here. There are other folks who were going to say something had to leave because of a health issue. I'm just basically was at the meeting last week when we made the presentation, and I had a couple of thoughts, and one of them was, wow, this is like a really pretty efficient, nice sales format, how to sell plots. And then I heard some numbers that we had maybe 1,300 plots available to sell. And I'm going to start adding up figures. I'm going, well, how many do we sell a year? And I'm starting to think. And then I started putting it all together, and I'm going, it's a lot of money to come up with for a website that's really becoming a sales format to make it easier for the city offices. Basically, I'm sure it does benefit efficiency, and it is very, very pretty. And, you know, the loved ones and families would appreciate it to have things in one place. So, but I spent a little bit of time, and I went out and talked to the Friends of Oak Hill Cemetery, Mark Bunty in particular, who says he's got 140 named family members in the cemetery. And I talked to another gentleman who doesn't want me to mention his name, who knows all the families who have loved ones at the Mount Pleasant Cemetery. And they were thinking that, well, the funding for the cemeteries would be much more effective in upkeep and maintenance. And things are getting done. And it's, you know, over the last couple of years, a lot of things have gotten done on especially the Mount Pleasant Cemetery. And then the Friends of Oak Hill Cemetery have come up with private funding and gotten a lot of work done. And the city's still takes care of maintenance of those advantages. But it's still coming up as $23,000 plus an ongoing fee. And I've been looking into it, and it's not just, you know, $200 a month. It keeps talking about, there was something about cremations with a $5,000 minimum. And, you know, those kind of things, I don't want to put my brain there, but I just know that there's a lot more cost going on there. And the bottom line is, it is making it more efficient for the front offices. And the persons I've been talking to are saying they don't need it. They've been able to find everything they need. And the number of inquiries that were stated in some of the communication, which the other folks were going to talk about, said that, you know, that was like not that many inquiries during the year. So we just think it's a lot of money for a website. Thank you.
Oh, no. Well, we hope they get well soon. Any questions?
This item, it's tied in from what I can see on item 18 on the Roy Wood Sexton contract. I need to understand better if are we creating a redundancy here? The, and again, I'm bringing in the item 18 because if we're going to take action on this item first, it is tied to the decision down on item 18. And that contract proposal will continue to pay $450 a month. And then if we approve the cemetery software contract, it's going to cost us $315 a month on top of that. So can we get clarification? Do we have, how is the sales process working? It appears that we have two different avenues working there. And I guess the city manager, I'm directing that to you because you're the one that will know.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Council and Mayor, there are two separate and distinct but collaborative efforts going on at the cemetery, at our cemeteries. The sexton's job is to plat plots, lots, and blocks. He meets with family members who want to take a look at the property before they purchase it. He does not sell lots. That all comes through the city of Smithville. He coordinates with the funeral companies for the opening and closing of caskets. He's our boots on the ground. There was never any intention at any time to get rid of our sexton. It just so happened that his contract expired December 31st, and that's item 18. I'll go more into that at that time. The purpose of this platform, yes, it's an online cemetery management platform that will improve efficiency. It will provide additional customer service. And all the comments about, yeah, all the people here know their relatives where they are, but we get 25 to 30 people out of town who come are looking and searching for their genealogy through the Tricia, our City Hall staff here in person. You have to understand that what's done right now, I can only show you, it's show and tell. Hold on.
Did you have it? Oh, he does it.
Revolving door here.
You got to grab the mic.
Yeah. These are our cemetery records. When somebody comes in and wants to know where their loved one is buried, we go to an access database. We find out the location of the numbers. You go back to what the numbers are. You find the lot and block, and you take the person with a marker and say, that's where your loved one is. So this has to come out, go into the lobby to show people where their loved ones are buried. Okay. What this service offers, in addition to GPS mapping, it allows you to tie three artifacts, whether that's a deed, whether that's a note to the loved one, that's tied to the drill down. So if I hit online, the drill down, I can see the deed. I can see any other notes to loved ones. I can see a photo. I can find out in the cemetery what lots are available, what lots are occupied. And it is going to be an efficiency improvement for our staff and a customer satisfaction to the people who are looking for the genealogy. So this does not show the new section, which is right here. This is what Mr. Wood does for us. He plats the plots, lots, and blocks of new sections. Okay. So this is the record we have. We need to upgrade. Now, having said that, that's all I need for this. Oh, yeah, it's the only copy. Not done yet. Here's Mount Pleasant. That's Mount Pleasant. Taking that, they made this. Weaving No, that's why, that's the difference between the two. Roy? That's the difference between the two entities. Again, they're collaborative. They work hand in hand to provide a total experience for the customer, right?
Before Robert puts this back up, y'all have a question about the, you have a question?
Mike,
Go ahead.
Go.
I want to see.
Okay. All right, well, I do have a few questions. I think that what Robert touched on were, there's really two issues at hand. I think one is efficiency. And that is more inward facing as it relates to, do we make it more efficient for the city staff? And then there's customer experience or customer satisfaction, which is more outward facing. Certainly this investment being contemplated would potentially increase the customer experience for sure. I think that was pretty well documented with the presentation last time. In terms of efficiencies, it says on average, I think, Robert, you said that there was 35 to 40 or so inquiries a year, and that you thought that 40% of those were in person. So that's about 12 a year in person. So that's about 1 a month on average. And we have to take staff time to do stuff. My question is, for $23,000, notwithstanding some ongoing costs, is on average 1 in-person inquiry a month. Is that the response you had in the email? Is that really right, or is that not the right number?
That's what Tricia estimated in
Okay.
the time that she's met with people. And
Yeah.
again, the customer, that's just a very small part. We need to digitize these records.
Well, I understand, but the question is, you're paying somebody $23,000 to do that versus doing it ourselves. I promise you, they're using an Excel sheet. That's what they're going to do. They're going to put it into an Excel or some sort of digital document,
Okay.
and they're going to upload it. We could do that ourselves. So the question is whether we're the ones to do it, whether for the amount of volume of work, is it worth outsourcing it for 23,000? So forget the customer experience. That's not unimportant, but that's distinctly different than the financial case that we're going to create these efficiencies. I'm just trying to understand a little bit better how, on average, 1 in-person visit a month that requires the staff to stop what they're doing. How is that worth the 23,000 today? I'm just trying to understand that, because I think there's several people have approached me from the community about, is this in this year with the budget and the tax note and all the concerns, 23,000 is an immaterial amount, in my opinion, relative to a $13 million budget. I will also say that the contract as drafted and negotiated has a 30-day termination clause. It has really good indemnity language, really good liability. Jason and Robert did a great job. We saw the draft this afternoon. I have no problems with the agreement. I'm just asking, is this the right time to spend the 23,000 given the circumstances? So I would give you an opportunity to maybe expound on that if there's more efficiency.
Robert, before you respond, and I'm sorry, just adding on to it, for me, the dilemma is it's a characterization of, again, a must-have or a nice-to-have. Is this something that can be delayed? I think at some point tonight, we're going to look at the tax note expenditure update. We're going to see that we've spent $3 million. Now, is $23,000 material to that? Not really. I'm hoping that we can scrape together some savings. And depending on what we approve, is to have some sort of reserve at some time, because we said we had 3 years to spend this money, and it's going to be spent.
The action I was given from the last meeting was to come back with a clean copy of the contract. Again, you have the opportunity or option to approve or disapprove that contract. I'm advising you that fires happen, things happen. Roy dies. I just would like these digitized, and that's your decision now.
If we were to do it ourselves, because that's one of the things in my comment that I didn't point out, and it's a good point. We're not just talking about the time for the staff to respond to the inquiries. The real need, whether we outsource it or we do it ourselves, is we need to digitize these records. So we could do that ourselves, but that's time, and that's on top of the time that your staff would be spending for these 40. So when I spoke about on average it's 1 a month, there's more involved in it, because we would have to have staff digitize. If we chose not to outsource it, we'd have to have somebody set aside or contract with someone to do that.
And Mount Pleasant is clearly the albatross here. There, I don't have anything really for Mount Pleasant except that sheet and some 3x5 cards.
All right, any other questions? Entertain a motion, something?
Another thing that I want to comment on is this also brings in the ability to add on the funeral parlors, the florist, and all the other things that come under this, so that when people are looking for things, say you've got a loved one from out of town that wants to do something, if you've read this, that they can call, they can look, they can have the florist right there, and they can communicate with everybody they need to in one place. Does it make it easier? Yes, I think it does. These are added things that I think will benefit in the long run. You know, you never know what's going to happen. I agree that we need to get rid of this. If you're going to hire somebody to do it, or if we're going to have our people do it, is it going to cost more in the long run to have them try to set all that up, to try to research it and do everything? What is going to be the outlay? Because when you have an employee that's going to be dedicated, it's probably going to be more than one, because they're going to have to sit down and try to find this and get with Roy and all the other people. I'm not sure that we would not be spending more money in-house than we would out of house.
I make a comment. I think your point is right on. The only context I want to provide is in a couple months ago, or a few months ago, we went through a pretty contentious.
Hey, guys, let Tom finish and we're gonna vote.
It was a few months
Quiet.
ago, we went through a fairly contentious budget process in which there was lots of discussion about the $3 million, about raising trash fees, about raising property taxes. We made a commitment, or I know I made a commitment, not an official quid pro quo, but talked about increasing the size of the pie. There's lots of sensitivity in the community about how much money that we're spending. I don't think 23,000 is material in the big scheme of things, but we also, as part of that budget, use those increased revenues to provide very substantial increases in salaries for city employees. Well deserved. But I think there is a legitimate perception in the community that we have staff at the city that we now feel like we have paid all the way up current to where the market is. And why can they not do that, perform that work? I'm not saying that I'm not supportive. I'm just saying I want to understand that there is that perception out there that this is part of running the city, and we're starting to outsource a lot of things. And I'm just looking for a case for real efficiencies. If we're going to outsource it, what is the case, the financial case for that? And I think it's you'd have to pay somebody to digitize this stuff, because one on average per month inquiry is not efficiencies, but there may be other costs.
Can I equate it back to something we did 5 years ago? Then that was, we had a work order system that was paper, and we went to C-Click-Fix. Okay, so that really improved the efficiency. It gave a tool for the citizens to use. And that's the only thing I equate it to at this point. I just think it's a good thing to do. But again, you're the folks that have to guide me and vote. So that's all I can do is recommend.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the cemetery workstation platform, the AFS, and go forward with the contract.
I'll second that motion.
Motion has been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2. Opposed? 1, 2. So it's a tied vote. So I will make a deciding factor and I approve. Next item is discussion. Discussion and action on a resolution authorizing the city of Smithville, Texas to be a lead applicant and file grant application with Capital Area Council of Governments, CAPCOG, for the FY 2024-2025 solid waste grant, authorizing the city manager act on the behalf of the city of Smithville in all matters related to the application, and pledging that if the grant is received by the city of Smithville, will comply with the grant requirements of CAPCOG, the Texas Commission on Environment Quality, TCEQ, and the state of Texas.
Thank you all. So this is,
Pick it up.
okay,
Yes, it's really short.
Yeah, okay, there you go. That's better. Thank you. Mayor and City Council, thank you again for all the work that you do. I know it's a tough job that y'all have. This is the CAPCOG, this will be, we basically every year that there is a solid waste grant, we have tried to get some funding. We've used this a number of times to improve the recycle center primarily here. And we've also worked with the county in partnership to do work over at the Household Hazardous Waste Center. This particular grant application, I've worked with very closely with Edward, who I don't see right now, but Edward Balasek. There you are. Oh my gosh. You're right. Sorry, I'm like blind right now. Okay, like the
Can we
wrong,
put
they're
a
the wrong.
tag on Edward
sorry,
sharing?
I'm sorry.
Please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so Edward, and so what this is for is it's something called Big Bellies. There's solar compactors. We would get 4 units. They would be situated along Main Street. The grant is approximately $24,000 for these 4 units, plus an additional 4 smaller for use in events for to be able to provide a receptacle place for recycled containers, recycled materials, recyclable materials. And a little bit of educational materials as well. The Big Belly containers are trash compactors. The idea there is that they're also computerized, and so they'll let the crew know when they are full. And so this will be a good time saver, labor saver. It'll be interesting for the community to start, doing more things like if you teach a kid to throw the thing in and they see the compactor go, right? I mean, it's just sort of like make it a little bit more interesting. The idea is that it will help to improve our ability to do source reduction and recycling capacity using these recycling containers in conjunction with those during events and so forth. We did, as you can see all the whereases, the couple of city goals that we worked at also dovetail in with the goals from CAPCOG. And so we're just gonna try like we always do. We'll see what we get.
Go ahead.
Is there any pictures of these big bellies?
I'm sorry, I don't have one, but yes, there are.
I mean, do
yes.
they resemble their name?
They're
Are they
they're
like
like
round pot belly
they're
looking?
the
Attractive?
ones that I saw. Yeah, and you can get we're also looking for wraps.
Are they attractive?
Are
They're
they
going to be on a
attractive?
main street is the
Yes.
point is
Yeah,
what
yeah.
they look like.
So they're square, the
Okay.
ones that I recall are square, and we can get them with a wrap around them. And so the wrap can do whatever
So it's
we,
attractive.
yes,
Yeah.
and we can make it as much
Yeah.
as whatever we want it to do.
And
Yeah,
the
whatever
the
we want
other
it to look
thing
like.
that I think is important is we've had instances, I know we had with Honey's, where we have events with a lot of people downtown and they use private businesses dumpsters and they overflow and that creates some problems. So I assume that this would potentially address that, is during times when we have events, we would have public storage for people so they wouldn't feel compelled to put their trash in private dumpsters, right?
I would hope so.
I
Yeah.
like it. All right, any other questions?
I've got a question. Jill,
Yeah, okay,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, you may end up deferring to Councilman Jenkins on this, our resident expert in recycling.
Trash man.
What kind of impact will this have on our recycling program?
Shouldn't have any. This was part of the grant. We had to go one of 2 ways, and we had the best chance of getting these and getting anything from the CAPCOG by getting these. This is what, I mean, Jill and I have been back and forth. This is the main thing that would happen. We're going to get some training, some money for training for Stacy Savage to come back and do some recycling training with the community later on. But this right here is a big thing. This will help the city, help the downtown, and I think really it'll be something new and an eye catcher, I think.
No questions. I was going to ask to make a motion. Mayor, I move that we authorize the resolution from the city of Smithfield to be the lead applicant and file a grant application with the CAPCOG for a fiscal year 24 through 25 solid waste grant, authorizing the city manager act on behalf of the city of Smithfield in all matters related to the application, and pledging that if a grant is received, the city of Smithfield will comply with the grant requirements of CAPCOG, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality in the state of Texas.
Motion been made in second. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Approved.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Joe. All right, we're on to number 17. Discussion and action on a resolution supporting the rehabilitation of the Willow Apartments located at 324 Webb Street.
Okay, Council and Mayor, this is a presentation, an opportunity for the Willows to obtain a grant to help them remodel. And we have tried this a couple years past, but unfortunately, it was shot down like a dove in October, but we have an opportunity to do it again. So go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, Council, Mayor. My name is Robbie Meyer and I represent Nick Gray. They are the current owners of the Willows Apartments. And we are going, this is our third time.
I
So
assume you're
we're-
related to Mark because you're not Mark.
Well, I am not Mark. He is my associate. He set everything up for me. I am the owner of Arcs Advantage. We are the consultant for McRae. Again, this is our third time around. The last couple of times we've just missed the scoring, just squeaked out. Hopefully we're going to stay in this time. I'm not going to waste your time going through the slides. I'm going to hope you've read over that. McRae has been in the business since 1979. They're an affordable housing developer. Most of their developments they have are USDA, and that is exactly what the Willows is. It is a USDA finance development. That loan will stay in place. It will just be transferred to the new partnership. The program that we are applying for is the Housing Tax Credit Program with the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. We turned in our pre-applications this last Friday. We are anxiously awaiting that log to come out to see where we fall. What we are asking for, and it's all scoring. I know the city of Smithville has done CDBGs and grants and all of that. It's all about score. Two of the things that we need from the city is the support resolution that is on your agenda tonight. And along with that resolution is a financial commitment of $250. And we ask that as development fee waivers. You've supported us 2 times before. We ask that you do it one more time. Hopefully this is the last time. And we'll try to stay competitive. We're up there. We're top scoring. I have 8 applications that are in the USDA set aside, and we're all tied. So hopefully we will see how we all fare. So just hopefully the money will hold out and we'll all get there. And you'll see that this is 32 units. There's 16 1-bedrooms, 16 2-bedrooms. We are doing 1.9 million, almost 2 million in rehabilitation to those units. And it's a major rehabilitation to the development. Like I said, we turned in our pre-applications on Friday. Our full applications are due March the 1st. And hopefully the resolution, if you approve it tonight, will get us across that finish line.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sure.
Just what is you missed out a couple times scoring really close?
Yes, 1 point.
Oh,
Actually, on 1 year, it was a tie break. We were tied with another application. We were 1 point below, but we were right on the bubble. And
what percentage tax credit, which bucket are you applying for?
We're in there's an at-risk set aside,
Right.
and the USDA set aside is within that set aside. There's about $4.5 million in that set aside. And
Are you maxed out based on what you could score? Is there nothing else you could do to raise your score? Nothing the city could do, even additional financial support, nothing would raise your score?
We are maxed. And that's usually what we do is I go through every one of my my clients' inventories and we pick out everything that will score the max in a cycle. And that's kind of how we move along. And this year, I mean, Smithville, we have tried the best we have. And again, it comes down to how many applications are in the round. And so it's just we've fallen short. So
So what's your total rehabilitation budget? What are you doing?
we're just under 2 million. It's
Yeah,
1.964 and some change. By the time we actually get to March, it may be a little bit more, just depending on, cost. But that was what we estimated, when we started with our pre-apps.
Very good.
Gonna ask a question when you do, and I'm gonna say you're gonna get this. This is just gonna be, we're gonna say you're gonna
I
get it.
hope so.
I'm hoping you're gonna put up a lot more exterior lighting for the parking lot and the surrounding area.
I will certainly make sure that, I bring that to my client. I mean, we have a full rehabilitation, so they're doing sidewalks, everything is an upgrade to the development. And I'll make sure that, exterior lighting, I haven't looked at the full budget of what they have in there, but I'll make sure that normally if they're doing, parking
Exterior.
lots and every resurfacing, which I'm normally that, whenever we're having to do older developments, because we have to do ADA compliance and all of that with sidewalks and everything. So that makes it
That fits in.
restructuring, surfacing, parking lots and all of that. So that redoes lighting and everything.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is that a commitment from you?
Well, I'm going to take it back to my client. Let's just put it that way. I can't commit their budget, but I will certainly recommend strongly that happen. Lighting's not a big major deal, because
In terms of
especially
cost
with
or-
LED,
Or
Um,
security, safety?
lighting costs. Yeah. And because normally, whenever we do lighting these days, we upgrade to LED lighting and it's much better and that's not as expensive as the old lighting. So
Another weird question, immaterial to the whole thing, but on a project of this cost, is the $250 waiver, is that part of the scoring process?
it's part, yes. If I could get
assumed
out
there
of
was a
that.
logical
Yes.
explanation for that.
There used to be a percentage, we used to have, up to 6%. And then that in small rural towns that really made a major deal. So the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs is who we're applying to. They changed those requirements for the financial commitment several years back, and made it much easier for cities to make that financial commitment. The point category actually went down as well, but it's still there. If I could get around that, because it is a hassle to keep up with that. If I could get around it, I would drop it, but it's a point. And every point, because it comes down to tie breaks. And right now, as I said, I've got applications and they're all tied. So it's going to come down to, do we have enough money to stretch through all of them?
I'm inclined to agree with Councilmember Jenkins that we're going to fully support this. I would appreciate at some point if you did come back and let us know how your client feels about making sure that the lighting's taken care of.
Sure.
Thank you.
And I can talk to them,
Thank
not
you.
a problem.
I'll also will ask that, of course, a building permit, you got a lot of pre-existing non-conforming uses, and we want to take a look at those drawings to make sure they comply with our codes as you upgrade.
Oh,
And then,
sure.
and then what do you do with the people that are there?
We actually, we rehab in place, so we
Okay.
don't have to move people out. We normally have, a vacant unit or two, and then we move them within the building. Normally, they're not out of their unit very long. So sometimes if we put them up in a hotel, for a few days, we strip out cabinets really quick, put them back in, strip out flooring, put them back in. So they're not out of their units very long. So it goes pretty quick. So we rehab in place. We don't try to mess with relocation.
That's smart. I do.
Mayor, I move that we approve resolution 2024-01-517, MAC Reed LLC, Department of Housing and Community Affairs, competitive 9% house credit resolution for Willows Apartments.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made in second. All in favor? 1, 2. It's approved.
Thank you.
For your time.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Discussion and action on entering into a contract with Roy Woods for the cemetery sexton.
Hey, Council and Mayor, you have a updated contract for your consideration to continue the service of our sexton, who is Mr. Roy Woods, who's fulfill that job or role for at least 30 years.
Forever.
As I said, under item number 14, or that his contract snuck up and we didn't renew it. You can renew by just sending a letter. But the 31st came and went, and that's why we're bringing this to council now for consideration, just to renew Mr. Woods' contract as our sexton.
I have a question. How long has his rate been at 450? Has it been 1, 2 contracts?
It's 2 contracts. He's been at 450
Okay. I,
a month.
If we approve this, I would like to make a $50 a month more for it was $500. I believe he does a great job and provides a very, very necessary service for our city.
Be inclined to support that. My question is, where are we funding this? Is this general fund?
It's under the cemetery contract. Yes, general fund.
Can you make a motion and, will you make a motion with the?
Yes. I'll make a motion that we approve the contract for Roy Woods at $500 per month for the 24-month period, with the right to extend the contract for an additional 24-month period.
I'll second that motion.
Motion been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2, 3. Motion's approved. Discussion and action on resolution calling for the May 4th, 2024 general election.
Mayor and council, this is something we do every year. And there are 3 places up, or 2 places up, actually. Place 4 is up for, on the ballot. It's currently held by Councilmember Jameson. Place 5 is currently held by Councilmember Bruno, and the mayor will be up for election. The incumbent candidates and new candidates can file beginning January 17th, with a deadline to file being February 16th, 2024 by 5 p.m.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve a resolution of the city of Smithville, Texas, calling a municipal general election for the 4th day of May, 2024.
I'll second that motion.
Motion been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's approved. Discussion and action on entering into a joint elections contract with the elections administrator of Bastrop County to conduct the city of Smithfield's May 4th, 2024 general election.
Council and Mayor, similar to last year, we have to approve this action to enter or allow Bastrop County to conduct our general election on May 4th. It establishes terms, conditions, and responsibilities necessary to conduct a joint election with the county. Typically, these elections, if it's a joint election, cost about $4,000. If the school drops off, it doubles because we have no one to share that cost. So right now, the estimated projected cost for this election is $4,000.
If that ends up, if they drop off and end up with no opposed, like this last time, no opposed positions, and we end up having to double,
Yes.
wow,
Any other questions?
we need to find some candidates.
I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah,
Councilman.
we're on 20. Is this item 20?
Welcome.
Yes, yeah.
Mayor, I move that we approve and enter into a joint elections contract with the elections administrator of Bastrop County to conduct the city of Smithville's May 4th, 2024 general election.
Motion been made and second. All in favor? Approved. All right. Number 21, discussion and action on entering into a contract with Bastrop County for ad valorem tax assessment and collection.
Okay, Council and Mayor, this was an interlocal contract with Bastrop County for them to assess and collect taxes. And it's typically $8,000 a year, $2,000 per quarter. We pay it all at once. One time. But this pays for them to assess our property in Smithfield.
Number 21. Come on, Mitch.
I miss Councilmember Bruno. Mayor, I move we approve and enter into a contract with Bastrop County for ad valorem tax assessment and collection.
Motion been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2. It's approved. Discussion and action on use of the rec center commercial kitchen to support Sunday Farmers Market and our other local vendors to increase capacity and inventory offerings. Councilman Jameson, you'll kick us off?
Yes, ma'am. There are two issues here, one specific to the utilization of the commercial kitchen and the other in general regarding the overall increased utilization of the rec center. Since our colleague, Councilmember Bruno, has been an advocate for a while of the overall increased utilization, I'm suggesting we focus on the specific utilization or availability of the kitchen versus the overall issue. Might take that up at a later point. What I'm suggesting here is that we increase the availability of the commercial kitchen to entrepreneurs and small business owners such as the Sunday market and vendors. And I don't know, Ms. Dyer, have you signed up to speak? Okay. I've talked to Courtney and several of the vendors out at Sunday market, and several of them have said that they could produce more product and inventory if they had access to a commercial kitchen for a few hours a week instead of having to prep at home or cooking or baking in their own home kitchens. It would just be much more efficient for them to be able to produce more at a good price. If the rec center is made, if the rec center kitchen is made available at a reasonable price, we might be able to drive increased production and attract new vendors as we move into the spring and continue to grow the Sunday market and the impact it has on the community and economic development.
Come on down, Courtney. Is that who's signed up?
Okay, I have a.
Is there just one or how many or 3? Perfect. That's what she said. I couldn't misunderstood her.
All right. So I'm Courtney Dyer and my address is 234 Antioch Road. And I'm here to speak on behalf of Smithville's Farmers Market to propose a partnership with Smithville's Rec Center for use or access to their commercial kitchen and to discuss fair rates to entrepreneurs, small businesses, food vendors. So a little background. So I work really closely with food vendors, as well as Bastrop County's food inspector to ensure that all of our vendors are licensed and permitted as supposed to be. Some of our vendors are required based on their permit to have access to a commercial kitchen. These are our prepared food vendors. So anything that's time or temperature sensitive or just anyone preparing like full meals has to have access to prepare the food in a commercial kitchen, or it has to be fully cooked and prepared at market. For some of our vendors, that's not a possibility. So within Bastrop County, we only have 3 commercial kitchens, one of them being the rec center. The other 2 are, there's one in Bastrop and there's one in Elgin. And so aside from vendors that are required to use a commercial kitchen, we have vendors that desire to use the commercial kitchen, right? To increase their capacity. They're baking, our cottage law vendors are baking out of their home kitchens, one small oven. And it's hard to meet the demand in such a space. And so they desired to expand their operation through having access to a commercial kitchen. However, they want it local. So I have been in conversation with the one. So aside from the rec center, there's just 2 others in Bastrop County. Otherwise, they have to go out into Austin. And it's easier for them, especially working at market, to have the food, because it has to be kept in the fridge, right, close by. So Back in July or August, I actually reached out because I had some vendors who were interested in getting commercial kitchen access. So I reached out to the rec center to find out their pricing. And so I was told that they were $75 an hour or $300 a day, and that they weren't interested at the time in honoring any new contracts, that they had Meals on Wheels and a caterer, John Chabot, on Saturdays. And so I reached back out to our Bastrop County Permitting Office and said, what are the other options for vendors? And so that's when I learned about the one in Bastrop, Berg Bastrop LLC, which only charges $15 an hour for use of their commercial kitchen. And there's one in Elgin, Cottage to Brick, that charges $13 an hour. So that's a pretty extensive gap between what the rec is charging versus what vendors could pay, but they're having to go out and they want to stay here.
Did you say
in Smithville.
15 or 50?
15, 1 5.
Thank you.
Jennifer, do you have her email? I can't find it where she showed the rate comparisons. She sent it to, well, I want to see a visual of the comparison. That was pretty dramatic. It's okay. I thought, well, it wouldn't have mattered if I'd brought a hard copy or not because the citizens can't see it.
I mean, the email that she sent, one of them was $13 an hour and one of them was 15. One was Elgin, one was Bastrop. I don't remember which was which, but it's 13 and 15 versus 75. That's the point.
Right. And then there were it gets a little bit higher going into Austin, but still well under what the rec center has. There was one in East Austin that was $125 per month or $26 an hour. So that still falls well below within the $75 an hour or the $300 per day of the rec center.
How many ovens are in the rec center?
Different.
We got to repeat that so that people watch.
Don't hit her in the face with that. Will you repeat all your ovens?
Oh, 5.
5. So there's 5. I think, okay, well, now we have another lady
Jenny
that
said
says you only
3.
got 3.
I know.
Okay, we got 3 ovens now. Oh, okay. Okay. And then John Chabot has a contract with the city, is that correct?
That is correct. $160 a month plus 5% of gross sales.
And then we're coming up on wedding season. I'm pretty sure the rec center is going to be booked a few times
Which
on
is why
Saturday.
we didn't want to get into another full-time contract. So it wasn't that we were denying people from using it. It's just we couldn't get into another, you can use the kitchen Monday through Friday, 7 hours a day or something like that. It would just have to be, if you need it for 3 hours on a Friday or if you need it for, something like that. So I didn't want it to sound as though we weren't allowing people to use it because that wasn't.
What about availability at night or mornings? I mean, I know some people, you make it available from midnight to 4. I don't know what they're asking for. I'm just making the availability or accessibility. I'm sure that we could find some flexibility.
Okay, so CCA uses it Monday through Friday, from roughly 9 a.m. to about noon. And then John, does prep for various things throughout the week. I don't have a schedule from him right this second just because I haven't needed it because he coordinates with CCA on their stuff. Of course, more people that uses it, that would have to change. As far as like we're open till 9 on most weekdays. But I wouldn't know about granting access on the time that we're closed, especially because I don't have access to my cameras. So I wouldn't know what's going on in there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't know about like all hour access. I know some of like the kitchens, they have access cards that they'd be able to get in. A lot of those hours are also, there's minimums that you have to do at those rates. So it's not, I can just get an hour for $13. So there's a little difference.
More people want to speak.
Okay.
Jenny Bush.
Thank you, Courtney.
Hi, Jenny Bush, 204th Avenue. I'm here to speak on behalf of supporting other nonprofits and users of the city services. You know, Community Resource Center came here and presented to us and asked us to use the city in a way that was beneficial to all. And we've approached, and Ashley was actually asked to be a lead in that with, and even I, as a user of 10 years with the Meals on Wheels program in the rec center kitchen, we haven't seen much, happen because it's difficult, to make these changes, but it's not impossible. And John Chabot comes in with his he's got a contract, yes. There's no reason why these folks can't have a system, which it's a nonprofit organization, and that they're members of the nonprofit organization, and that they have rules and they have to follow them. And they possibly could also have the same privileges that John has, or even Meals on Wheels has, where we have an arrangement with them. We've got a key card entrance and, we come and go. There's a fee that we pay. It's not $75 an hour or $300 a day. It's considerate of our system. And I think an hourly rate is pretty cool what's happening in these other kitchens. So, we should consider it and give them a break. And there's no reason between John and Chabot and Meals on Wheels often share the kitchen at the same time. And there are only 3 ovens. 2 were sent away, put into auction. There's a big stove. Well, those ovens, is that what you're calling ovens? The ones in the stove? Those guys? Yeah, John never uses them, but okay.
I'll repeat that because the people watching online.
There's
can't
a gás stove in there that has 2 ovens underneath it. I'm talking about the 2 towers. One's broken. They're very expensive to fix. What does it cost? Like $7,000 to fix the one? It's crazy. Yeah, but John and I have been able to, Project Celebration's been in there. John's been in there. You guys use it for, daycare programs, summer programs. We share that kitchen. We don't feel like it's landlocked between 8 and 12. So anybody could, share with anybody. Be flexible and try to help each other out. I think it'd be kind of cool if you guys.
Two questions, and since she's relaying, or we can get the microphone to you, how many hours a week are you and John using it?
I use it. I use the kitchen from 8:30 to 12:30 Monday through Friday, and then that's Meals on Wheels. And John comes in. Once a month he's got this catering thing, and then he's got 2 or 3 events throughout the month. He's got a monthly fee and an arrangement with the city to come and go as he needs. He might be there a whole weekend.
But you're a 501c3.
And John's
for profit.
yeah.
Okay.
But he's got an arrangement and it is good, that we all can work together.
Thank you. Who else should we have to speak?
Lee Kilgore.
Where's Miss Lee at? There she is. You have been quiet.
Good evening, Lee Kilgore, 403 Ramona, under construction. It's looking fabulous. Okay, all right. I only had a few questions tonight about the request. One is, it's not a nonprofit. And we talked about it when the city gave concessions when the farmer's market opened up. They are trying to make money. They're part of our economic development plan. I think that we need to consider what the ask is. Jenny had mentioned that they were also nonprofit, and I don't believe that's the case, but clarify, nonprofit. You are not nonprofit. Okay. However, the folks that are there to make money. And my concern is that we look at things equally, transparently, in terms of what the fees are. This is the first time I've heard about the fees. I think that it's reasonable to consider a contract with them long-term, because that's something that we've decided as a community that we want the farmer's market to be here. It draws people into the community. It gives us something to do on the weekends. So I think that that's reasonable. I just wanted to understand a little bit more about the fees. Why, what was the justification for asking for a reduction in the fees? Thank you.
Question for either Ashley or Robert. You know, we approve fee schedules every year, I guess, or every couple of years, whenever Robert thinks that, you know, he wants to present a fee schedule for approval. There has to have been some rationale behind the 75 an hour or 300 a month. Do you recall what, did you go do comps? What did you kind of base that 75 an hour and 300 a month on? Do you remember?
I knew you were going to ask. I don't, and I,
Please, for the benefit of the audience, I need you to come to the podium so people can see who is speaking. Thank you.
Sorry, Ashley. Yeah. And then when you're there, if you also know, is it disclosable? I guess it is, Robert. If we get 5% of gross sales, what do we make per month off of Chabot?
I have that off the top of my head.
Okay.
Ashley might, what do you track that?
let me see if I don't know if I wrote it down on my.
Just trying to get a sense for relative to the 300 per month. We charge him 160. I'm assuming the 5% is at least
3 to
140 or
5,000.
more.
3 to 5,000
Yeah,
a
so
year.
it's a significant
Mhm.
amount of money we get from him in exchange for a contract. So
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, roughly 2,000 in
Yeah,
the
okay.
5% that we'll
Yeah.
get from him. As far as, no monthly on that 5%. And of course that varies with the catering jobs, you know, that, you know, he gets, he stays pretty steady. As far as the rate, like I said, I knew that was going to be a question. And I meant to go back, to remember when this fee schedule was even, you know, implemented, and what exactly we base that on. So, I don't have that particular answer. Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, I just asked. I wouldn't expect,
Yeah.
I'm just trying, when you look at the comps that Courtney did, you know, Elgin and Bastrop are obviously part of our consistent peer group, regardless of what we're looking at. We tend to go to LaGrange, Flatonia, Elgin, and Bastrop. So in light of that, and then especially in light of, even if you go to Austin, which you would expect to be a much higher price market, they're still considerably less. I think it makes sense to, you know, relook at that in light of the comps. And to the extent you have the ability, as Jenny said, to work with other groups to increase the gross revenue, it's all marginal revenue to us. Our costs are fixed. I mean, we have the rec center and whatever the costs are, and any time that it's not being used, anything we can generate is incremental revenue.
Sure.
So, and I think you indicated willingness to try to figure out, and I understand the not wanting to lock into a long-term contract, and Courtney and her vendors may not be able to do that. They may not be able to commit to that, but I think it would be great if we as a council could at least express our support for the rec center to do what it can to try to find something that's more comparably priced to
Sure.
accommodate organizations like that.
Right. And, you know, my overall concern, like I said, it makes me no difference what price ends up being, you know, that is found and agreed upon. My only concern with if it umbrellas the farmer's market, how many vendors we'd be able to accommodate. So if she ends up with 50 vendors and they all want space at one time, who would get it? You know, who would make that decision? Does the name just get pulled out of the hat? You know, is it first come, first serve? That would be my only concern, is if it's a general farmer's market contract rather than finding a better commercial rate and then people can just call on their
Yeah,
own.
you should figure that out. And to Lee's point, I mean, I think it's legitimate, even though the farmer's market is a 501(c), the people that roll up underneath it are not. They're there to make a profit. So you're really making the kitchen available to them, not to the farmer's market.
Correct.
So I'm not suggesting that we make a huge, but when you look at the comps, we may be at 75 an hour overpriced relative to the comps. So let's at least
Right.
consider
And a
getting
lot of
to
those
market.
prices did still come with, like, say, a minimum hour,
That's right.
you know, or something like that. So we still were definitely higher.
You're not getting 30 minutes for $37.50.
Correct. Yeah. No, exactly.
Get your bread in the oven.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, as long as everyone has like those permits and the licensing and things like that, We just want to, be careful of what's getting brought in and versus, because I know, Jenny, you remember the infestation we had of whatever got brought in, we had to deal with that. So we just want to be careful on what's brought in and.
Would it make it easier for you to be able to deal directly with Courtney and she manages the number of vendors? I'm not talking about pricing right now, but you wouldn't have to worry about, I've got 5 or 50 vendors vying for space here. Space being time.
I don't know. I think that if we just find a better commercial rate and then the vendors could probably just deal with us. I don't want too many middlemen for, like I said, if it's not going to go through the farmer's market, I mean, there would be no reason to. They could just come on their own business.
I'm not
don't
sure
know
what
why I
you're
would do
saying.
that,
It
though.
is easier for you to deal directly with the vendors or?
Correct.
you-
Yeah, they would just call and get a time, a day, whatever it is that they want to rent, and we would just give them the rate.
And that way they have to make sure they clean up, like we have it rented
Mhm.
for our fundraisers.
Mm-hmm.
And so those times will need to be blocked off that
Right.
the people renting
Right.
and then John Chabot will have, he's been a customer for how long?
Right. Because
so
there'll
he
be a
will have
whole
to
bunch of
put
coordination.
his hours down because,
Mhm.
Well, it sounds like the issue that was raised by Courtney was one of price.
Mm-hmm.
That was really it. So if you're willing to take a look at the pricing
Yeah.
to be more competitive, then I agree. Just let, Courtney can say, listen, this is a potential commercial kitchen locally. This is who you contact, and they contact you and you
Mhm.
manage them just like you would anybody
Yeah.
else.
And like I said,
So-
and I have no problem doing that. I mean, that,
Okay.
it's whatever the blessing that gets passed down is what we'll do. So I mean, that.
Courtney, can you come back up and answer that question, please? I'm sorry, it's about people watching on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah, that was all I was requesting was just,
But say it, restate it for me.
I just wanted, for there to be a fair price to vendors to keep things local. There's only 3 commercial kitchens in our area. And so Smithville has the opportunity to keep it local and to support our community. And so I just wanted to level that playing field.
okay, very good.
I have a question, Courtney.
Yes.
Have you, the other 2 kitchens that are in the county,
Mhm.
are they comparable size-wise and capacity-wise to what Smithville has? Because that would be, to me, a reflection of how much is charged per hour. Are they smaller? Are
It-
they bigger? Because they're bigger, they can charge less? I'm just trying to
Mhm.
get, a value of what's being charged and how it's working. Do you know anything
I-
like that? No, if you have 4 ovens or if you have 5
Yeah.
ovens or however many it is, how big it is,
I think the one in Bastrop is actually smaller
it's small. Okay.
Well, that would be information to.
because
help
they
Chad
can
with
only,
Yeah.
they
maybe
can
how
only
much
accommodate
space.
2 at a time in the Bastrop one.
Okay,
2 chefs
see,
at a
that
time.
answers a question to me.
Thank you. Okay, I'm good. Do you have any questions, Bob?
I would like to recommend that Ashley do some continued benchmarking, come up with a fair and reasonable rate. One thing you have to realize that there's storage, you have walk-in freezers and freezers. I don't know what the farmer's market, your vendors, what they're going to want to store week after week, but we have limited space to do so. Just all these things we want to take a look at and have Ashley come back
Yes. and
with,
just let us with some answers.
and a possible draft contract. Sound good?
For like the individual, I mean,
Like hourly, how many people can be in there, how much space you have.
Well, let's benchmark a rate
Yeah.
and then figure out what's going to work. How many vendors are we talking about? Like 15, 20, 25?
No, I think it would be, it would just depend on how much they could produce in that time. Like we have, people who produce, like jams and jellies who want to get in the storefront, but they are not allowed under cottage law unless they're going through a competition. So maybe only a certain time a month they're going to go in there and make like a huge batch to last them a
Yeah,
while.
you probably need to come up to the mic. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
We can hear you, but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want people not to hear you. So go back to the jams and jellies.
Yes, I was saying that it kind of depends vendor to vendor on what their product is and what their desire is to grow their business. So you might have someone who produces jams and jellies who wants to get in a storefront. In order to sell wholesale to a retail service, you would have to have access and your product would have to be produced in the commercial kitchen. Texas cottage law doesn't allow you to sell online or wholesale. So it just depends on what their desire is for growth. And we have some that are just happy to stay at the farmer's market, but they just need a bigger space the day before to prepare all of their, baked goods or whatnot.
It would be of great benefit if you could identify the numbers for Ashley and us to consider. with
Yeah.
Respect to how many.
Yep. Right now, I know we have 3 that currently work in other kitchens. So I'm hoping that maybe they would desire to come back closer. They have voiced that as something that they desire. And then I have 4 right now that are in consideration to expand their operations. And then, it's not a ton, but keeping it local, I think is important. We live in a food desert, so.
Can you guys get together and talk that out? Please?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna turn my attention now to the city manager and ask in terms of a form of a motion. I don't know if we need an action on this, but we would want to follow up on this in February. Is that just gonna be an action item?
Are you
follow-up?
good
We
with
don't need
that?
a motion?
February, come back with a
Yeah,
proposal.
I'll put a whole bunch of stuff together for options
Okay.
and we can cherry pick off of that.
Have enough in the minutes to reflect it, yeah.
All right, thank you. On to the next discussion, action on appointment, reappointment of members of the Smithville Housing Authority Board.
Okay, Council and Mayor, the Housing Authority Board consists of 5 members who serve 2-year terms. Members are selected in even and odd years. And there is 1 resident that's selected every year. The people up for reappointment, and they've expressed an interest to continue serving, are Mr. Dale Weaver, place 3, Mr. Troy Stroyer, place 4, and the resident appointment or reappointment would be Ms. Novalee Wolf. You have questions?
You want to have asked before when we do appointments, do we have any insight into, are these active participants showing up at all the meetings and making contributions? Do we feel
Yeah.
that that's the case?
Each of these individuals are actually sworn in to serve, and they meet at least quarterly, if not monthly. Correct, Jennifer? Yeah. But as they are funded by the government, they have to maintain records and hold regular scheduled meetings. And Ms. Rhonda would let me know if any of these people were not pulling their weight. Rhonda Baxter.
You want a motion, Mayor? Move that we approve the appointment of Dale Weaver, Troy Struer, and Novalee Wolf for the Smithville Housing Authority Board.
I second that motion.
Motion been made and second, all in favor? Approved. Number 24, Cynthia's favorite, discussion and action on approval of the financial report. Come on, Cynthia. You're our icing on the cake. Oh, no, we got. Oh, I lied.
Okay. You had in your packet, the December, financial report. Currently, the revenues are sitting at 3.9 million of the $15 million budget, pretty much where we're supposed to be at this time of the year. Of course, if you look individually, general fund is looking a whole lot better than the utility fund, but that's due to property tax collection, and next month it will look really good. Utility fund is pretty much where it was at this time last year. Just a timing thing. I don't know if y'all have any specific questions on the report, and you also have in your packets updated ARPA funding and the tax note, kind of where we're at on those two.
Yeah. Summer's not here. I guess that explains some of the revenue on the utility.
On the utility, yes, the revenue's a little bit lower right now.
On solid waste expense being, well below the run rate, is there timing? What's up with
It's a
that?
timing issue of when we're receiving the invoice, and the last 2 months, we have a very short time frame between when the first of the month hits and when the financial report goes out. So I don't have those invoices.
So you hadn't
input
captured
yet.
that expense.
So it will be next month. Next month, more than likely, when the council meeting is an extra week out,
Yes.
then she has those invoices entered. So it's more timing and me
And-
just
and-
having to get it.
And then I noticed police personnel expenses behind run rate. Are we, because we haven't filled positions, are we trying to fill positions or?
Yeah. We
So
still
that's
have-
why we're behind is we just haven't filled those yet.
Mhm.
And what do you say? Oh. That was it, Cynthia. Thank you. Nothing, my standard question, you don't see anything in there? that
No, and
Give
like
you
I
any
said, if-
concern with budget?
No, if you look, we're pretty much even where we were last year. You know,
Are we including questions on the tax note update under this, or is that separate? May I ask
yeah,
that?
I mean,
For my edification, and those have asked me, and I thank you very much for updating this report. Of the $3 million, how much is unallocated? I know we have not had a vote yet on the security cameras, but I think that we have now addressed.
well, if you look, everything's been approved, like the 2.9 in that very first column. The 2 million
I'm sorry,
900
which first column?
in the very first column where it's the council approved mounts. If you go down, that's what y'all approved budget wise, all the way down. And then you can see on the very last page, the only unallocated amount yet is the cemetery. I don't know if you have the
If you go to a two-page, this little colorful one, that
yeah, I
that
don't
gives
know
you
if
the
Jennifer's
breakdown.
looking, but everything's pretty much been allocated except for the there's.
I guess I'm looking for the semantics, the difference between allocated and approved. Are you differentiating? Because to me, we have approved versus, well, allocated versus approval. We've approved everything except for
I mean,
the security cameras.
Okay, you've identified placeholders and some of those, change with the need and the amounts have changed. The cameras especially, they were 350, now we're down to 250. The document in your hand shows you that this is what the council approved on the utilities, under the PD, under the general. And there are amounts, placeholders. The actual expenditures against the $3.0 million is about 2.5 million. So we spent 500,000. There's still 2.5 sitting in the bank drawing interest. And she's tried to provide you with a list of, here's what it is, but it hasn't come in. That's why you'll see the paid to date, most of those are zero. Because although things have been ordered, they haven't come in and we haven't released the funding.
or like you've approved for like, in
Do you have that?
Edwards funds of Public Works, certain items have been
Yeah, I'm not
allocated for a
interested in the actual
specific thing,
expenditures.
but who we're actually purchasing it from may not be approved yet or
Yeah, I
done
get it.
yet. I guess
And-
how is that?
And that's what I was talking about. It's the semantics. I mean, in terms of what's been, the checks that have been written, the more checks we haven't written yet, the more interest we're going to earn
Correct.
over time. And
Right.
I'm not ignorant of that part. I'm just trying to understand in terms of what we've allocated or earmarked versus formally approved. And to me, I think the number down there, that's what I'm getting clarification on, is 32,000.
No, that's what's 32,000 is, we had a 3 million tax note. We've earned interest of 33. And out of what the original 3 million, basically we've earned that much in interest. Is the 32,000 is the interest that we've earned to date.
Of the $3 million, how much have we not formally approved? Spent.
In the first column, my understanding is you've allocated in, police department got their 500,000, Public Works got their 1 million, 1.1 million. general got 1.35. The only thing that was left unallocated yet was the 25,000, which was earmarked for cemetery, but it doesn't have to be.
Well, they just approved it, so it is now. Yes.
Where have we approved the 250 on the?
You allocated, you.
That's what I'm saying. The difference, the
You've
difference between,
allocated,
We reduced the earmark allocation from 350 to 250 based upon input and the meetings that we
yes, I
have.
said approved amounts.
Yeah.
I've allocated.
but it
out
hadn't
of
been
that-
formally approved yet by council.
No, it has.
Y-
All this
you-
has been approved. It just hasn't
So
been
we
spent.
voted on the 250,000.
You voted on paying for some cameras and about buying cameras at some point in time.
Okay.
You earmarked it. The council earmarked it, not you. Total.
Good distinction. Thank you.
But I like the fact we got 33,000 of interest coming in.
Yeah, because there's,
So that's 10,000 a month. There you go, right?
yeah.
Are we earning what, 5% on that? You got it in CDs or?
It's sitting at, it's not in CDs, it's in a checking or basically in a checking account. It's not First National, it's a Lone Star investment pool. But it's earning like 5.4%, I think the last time I looked on it. So.
So by the
better
time
than-
by the time we
actually better-
spend it,
Actually better than what our CDs are
Yeah.
earning.
so you've got 2.5 million unspent. That's
Yeah,
earning
there's-
5% right now.
Yeah, there's in the checking account, there's 2.4 million sitting in there, so that's earning interest right now.
Earning 5%. Yeah. So if it
5%
takes us
interest.
a year to spend that down, we can earn another 100,000.
Right, so
Okay.
technically you've got an extra 32,000 that y'all can spend on
I don't say that.
whatever.
Reference, is interest earned on that restricted similarly? Or can it be transferred to general fund
It has to stay with the note.
with the tax note?
Yeah.
So it has the same restrictions for how you spend it. It
Yes,
has
sir.
to be a qualifying expense? Okay. You want a motion to approve the financials? I make a motion that we approve financials as submitted.
Second.
Been made second, all in favor?
Before you go into executive, make the announcements so people can go, MLK. The walk and.
Remember, we have MLK Walk on Monday, 10 a.m., MLK Park. Bring your parkas and your umbrellas. I think it's going to be it's going to be cold. We're going to try to round up a few golf carts, so if someone needs a relief while they're walking, that they can ride the golf carts for a little while or something. And hazardous, okay, then you announce this one. This is up to you.
Yeah. Okay, everyone, we're gonna have a household hazardous waste, collection on January 20th. Tires and electronics, computers, TVs, printers, limit of 10 per vehicle. No commercial or, agricultural tires, and that will be over at 109 Taylor Street. And, no, how much, when? 9 to 12, thank you. It's not, I don't see it on here, that's why. Oh, here it is, 9 to 12. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now we will retire into executive session.
Happy New Year, everybody. Yeah, you.
City Council will hold an executive session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Government Code, Vernon, Texas Code, annotated in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551074 to discuss personnel. Thank y'all.
Evaluation. City matter. night. Go ahead. Yeah, so just,
We'll go back into the open meeting. Discussion and action from the executive session is for our city manager, Robert Tamble, we have weighted each goal. Economic development, the first goal will be 30% weight. His second goal is manage budget infrastructure projects, which is 25%. Communication interpersonnel, 20%. Number 4 is financial performance, 15%. And number 5 is support and manage administrative project, and that'll be 10%. Meeting adjourned.